Blank check with Griffin and David. Blank check with Griffin and David. Don't know what to say or to expect. All you need to know is that the name of the show is Blank Check.
Do you masturbate, Russ?
Geez, I've been so busy lately. I barely podcast my shoes. There we go. Are you happy?
My podcasts.
I barely polished my podcast. Yeah, I don't know.
Yes, you don't know.
I don't know.
Okay, Griffin's very riled about the choice of quote for this.
Well,
movie.
now that I have access to the clock of the recording, I can say it took 4 minutes to get to that.
Yeah, that's what I was riled about.
Okay, what about this one? What about this one? Here's a new quote. Ready? We're not restarting the episode, but here's a new superior quote along the same lines. Okay, let me essay the role of John Travolta's Russ Richards again. Give me a moment to find the character, and here's a new line. Yeah? Well, what about this little missy? There's enough mist in this little puppy to save 10 podcasters.
Yeah, that's fine. I mean,
right?
I don't remember a single line from this movie. You could say anything right now, say it was from this movie, and I'd be like, oh yeah, I guess I don't remember that.
Well, I've got to tell you, there's a line I'm going to have to apologize, Ben. I'm going to have to grab my phone at some point because when I listened to Nora Ephron's commentary, she cites the line in the script that she said when I was reading it, I must make this movie and I have to be on set the day that line is said for the first time.
Which line is it?
Should I just do that now?
Yeah.
I'll keep my phone relatively far away from the recording material.
Okay. And I'm going to do a third alt reading. I think it should be, what about this little missy? There's enough mist in this podcast to save 10 masturbators.
Here's the line. Lisa Kudrow in the restaurant says, "Fuck me, no fried clams," is one of the reasons I wanted to do the movie. I want to be there the day that line is first said. Amidst all the chaos and sadness, it's possible to focus on the most trivial thing, says Nora Ephron on the commentary for the hit 2000 comedy Lucky Numbers, now celebrating its 20th anniversary.
This is, of course, a very important episode celebrating the 20th anniversary of Lucky Numbers.
You're jumping the gun. The 20th anniversary, of course, is in October. We're a few months out from the 20th anniversary.
But that's good because you'll get in front of the wave of other sort of retrospective pieces.
Right. We're putting the marker down. Right.
It's
exactly.
the oral
We're
history.
First.
Also, David,
I've already heard there's competing oral histories. There's going to be 4.
David, it's a year-long celebration. The celebration isn't that day. It's a year-long celebration. What are you talking about? We're one of a tapestry of events celebrating the 20th anniversary of Lucky Numbers because this, of course, is Blank Check. It's a podcast about filmographies. Directors who have early success, massive success early on in their careers, are given a series of blank checks to make whatever crazy passion products they want, and sometimes those checks clear, and sometimes they win the lottery, but then results in several deaths. Baby. This is a miniseries on the films of Nora Ephron, and we've gotten to this, her second least successful film financially. This Is My Life made less than $1 million.
Right, but this is right. It made less money than This Is My Life. I just feel like this may have been bigger. This may have lost more money, right? Because this probably cost some money. And when you may not, do you know how much money this made total?
How many black hats did it make?
Can I tell you what I think? I haven't looked it up.
Okay.
My memory is that it made like 1.5 black hats.
I don't think it even got there. It made 1 and a smidge black hats, basically.
Like 11? What did it make?
10.
Wow.
That's bad.
It basically made Travolta's salary, is my guess.
It made like 1 1/3 black hats. Travolta might have gotten full quote for this. I mean, this is a big studio comedy at the peak of his stardom.
I would say slightly post-peak, but still in the zone. It. Yeah.
But here's the thing.
Boy, do I have a rundown of the Travolta leading up to this to really dig in on.
Well, we did. I want to warn you, we covered a lot in Michael.
And that is why my list starts with the release of Michael.
Great.
Because the period between Michael and this is insane.
Yes.
Can I just read this now?
Yes, because then there's the point I want to make after this.
Guest, and then we can.
Who's chomping at the bit?
I'm Griffin.
I'm David.
Your name? And our guest today returned to the show for the 5th or 6th time.
I'm like Craig Kilborn moving to CBS because I'm taking the 5 with me.
This is the time you join the 5-timers club on the main feed.
I think so. That's why I'm wearing my Ben hat.
Wow. He's wearing a congratulations hat. He has recently been anointed the official ambassador, brand ambassador.
Ambassador,
of the congratulations. An ambassador, sure. Of the congratulations fashion line.
Yes, this
Director
is
of Listen Up, Philip.
Your 5th episode. You're on Insomnia, Hollow Man, taking Woodstock. You took Woodstock.
We took it. We took it and we kept it.
And now this. Yes.
Yes.
And so to honor this event, of course, I rewarded Alex with the congratulations hat.
You gave him a congratulations hat because this is a major event for Alex Ross Perry, director of Listen Up, Philip, Queen of Earth, Her Smell, and many more.
Found another perfect film for me to come do.
I was going to say, you like to pick the film that kind of exists the least. Often their lowest grossing film, but a film that flopped in a way where people don't even talk about it.
And similar to Nolan, with the one movie that he does not have a writing credit on, this is the same thing. And it therefore feels perfect. And I basically demanded that this had to happen. Also, a huge Efron household over here. We love her.
You're a big Efron fan.
And this similar to taking Woodstock was like the one I hadn't seen.
Right.
Now, we had booked someone else for this episode.
Which was John Travolta, unfortunately.
John Travolta. We booked Johnny Travs, the most bovine of all leading men, to be the guest on this episode. And then, we booked a non-Travolta person who we've been trying to get on the show
John
for a long
Travolta and then
time.
there's non-Travolta. Those are the two categories.
We booked a non-Travolta for this episode. We've been trying to get on the show for a long time. And he had not seen this movie. And I was like, hey, this is up for grabs. Do you want to cover this? And he was like, sure. And then you told David, I would like to do Lucky Numbers. And David said to you, we have someone for Lucky Numbers. It's off the table. I don't think there's anything we can do about it.
And then I believe I also said, but you can have your pick of a Zemeckis or, like it wasn't like I was like, now check back again later. See ya.
Then Alex texted me and was like, it's too bad. I would have loved to done Lucky Numbers, but David told me there's nothing that can be done. It's immovable. And I was like, this is obstruction. This is large government obstruction. I can untangle this. I reached out to the other guests we had booked. I said, would you rather do first pick of any Zemeckis movie or Lucky Numbers? And he said, yeah, I'll take a fucking Zemeckis over Lucky Numbers. I made both people happier.
I'm the only one that would hear that offer and
happening.
say, Lucky Numbers, obviously.
Yeah. Yes, right. You wanted it.
And I got it.
Much like Nora wanted to be on set hearing the
Fuck
oh
me,
no, they're
no
out of
fried
fried
clams.
clams. Fuck me, no fried clams. Now, can I say 2 controversial opinions right off the bat?
Okay.
1, I think Lisa Kudrow nails that delivery of what is a very good line in a script.
She's great in this movie.
She's good. Yeah, she's actually just good in this movie.
Okay, now here's my second controversial take. I like this movie, and I was not expecting that. I was not prepared to have any generous takes on this film.
Yeah, I like to aim to be either the bottom or second to bottom when you do your rankings. So that's disappointing.
Yes. I mean,
this is second to bottom.
This is third to bottom for me, at least.
All right, well, that's okay. That's still in the losers.
Not to call out my list in advance, but they're 2 I like less than this, unquestionably.
While you're on the subject, did you take my suggestion for a bonus episode?
Was your suggestion hanging up?
It was.
Yes, then we did take your suggestion.
It was said to David in a blind rage when he was telling me that I had to take a hike.
We had already penciled hanging up into the schedule.
He stole your idea.
Blind rage.
Stolen glory.
Have you recorded it yet?
Oh, we haven't. We have not
because it's
yet.
interesting that this and that are the same year, both Kudrow.
Yes.
Both Kudrow. It's like welcome to the club, Kudrow. You're gonna be a rom-com leading lady. You're gonna be in Nora Ephron movies. This is great. Like your movie stardom awaits.
Well, if you think that one of the things
and frickin' Marcy X or
you brought up
Marcy or Darcy X, right?
Marcy X.
And people
Marcy
are
X.
like, go away, Lisa.
If you think that one of the things on my syllabus that I made is not talking about Friends movies, then you are incorrect.
A physical syllabus. Great. Okay. Because this is the context I want to get into. I feel like this is a really good episode to talk about the Friends movie careers.
Also because
and how
I think
strange
you
they are.
might never do one again. Is that possible? When I was looking at the careers of the Friends, I was wondering,
surely.
will a Friends cast member ever be discussed outside of like a Lost in Space oddball
I was going to
episode?
say, right, I feel like that's the only one we've done.
If we don't discuss, David Schwimmer in a movie, I'm going to lose my mind.
What would that
Surely he
movie
did
be?
Something.
Yeah,
I don't know.
name what that movie
There's not a
would
I
be.
need to
single-
look at his filmography.
Major or marginal auteur that he worked with that you would ever discuss him unless you do a Doug Elin
Let's
series.
dig into it.
He worked with the auteur David Schwimmer, director of Run Fat Boy Run. So maybe,
that's right.
Check yourself.
Of course.
He'd be on the weirdos bracket, right?
Yes,
He
the
could be on the
Schwimmer.
Weirdos. Well, okay, look, if we ever do Soderbergh, David Schwimmer was in The Laundromat.
Oh, he did fold that movie like
I do feel like you have repeatedly said Soderbergh is unmanageable by any measure of how to do it.
Well, who fucking knows?
we have yet to solve it.
Okay,
If we ever do Matt Reeves, which we might, then we're going to need to kick it off with the Paul Bear. We're going to need to bear that Paul.
Now that's an interesting take because I could see 2 movies from now us doing Matt Reeves. It could happen.
100%. And if we ever do Mike Nichols, I didn't realize this, but apparently David Schwimmer plays a cop in Wolf. So
And certainly
and-
he
and
would
I'm-
be
There you go.
the main thing to talk about while talking about Wolf. One of the most insane things that has ever happened.
I'm realizing one other Schwimmer. If we ever did Ivan Reitman,
yes,
we talk about
6
Schwimmer in
Days,
6
Nights.
Days, 7 Nights.
100%. Yes.
Okay, so
that
you're
is
going to
another
cover
one.
a lot of Schwimmer.
He popped
We're
up
going to
in a
cover
lot
so
of
much
stuff.
Schwimmer.
Yeah, is like a third lead.
But in terms of like what I define as the Friends movie, that's like one of the 6 cast members of the hit TV show Friends. Like
Yes.
as
Yes.
the lead. Like 6 Days, 7 Nights
Above
is
the
Harrison
title.
Ford and Hayes, and then whatever
Right.
Schwimmer as well. I'm talking
No,
like
I agree with
movies
you.
that were like, you're famous, here's your movie.
you're forgetting,
Yes.
there's a very obvious one.
Which one?
Peyton Reed. I think, Peyton Reed is a somewhat
For the
legitimate
breakup?
candidate, and the breakup is that's a Jennifer Aniston vehicle.
Yes.
So that counts because Jennifer Aniston's the one who actually got vehicles.
I was gonna say,
multiple
right.
vehicles.
Well, we have to unpack this, but it is fascinating for being the one friend who actually had a legitimate movie career that kind of worked. She has worked with very few people we would
Right.
ever cover on this show.
Unless
I
you
would-
do
I
Rob
would
Reiner
assume.
and cover the Graduate
Unless-
movie.
Unless we do.
But
the
you see,
Graduate
you
movie.
don't even remember the title.
Rumor has it.
Rumor has it.
All right, fine. Who directed Picture Perfect?
Oh,
I couldn't
Some
answer
guy.
that with a gun to my head.
It was a TV director mostly. Glenn Caron, whatever.
part of what I found interesting is that, like, in my mind, the Friends movies by 2000 are all done. Like, this movie is like 2 years later than every Friends movie except for 2 that I found, which are The Whole Nine Yards and 3 to Tango, both Matthew Perry vehicles, 2000 and 99.
Right.
And then weirdly, Marcy X is 2003, at which point no
But that
cast
was on a
members-
shelf for 2 years.
Yes. It
That
was
was like a
much delayed.
very delayed movie. Because
Yes.
Paramount made that and then looked at it and said, are we going to get arrested if we put this in theaters? It was one of those where they just kept on
They
like,
should release it now.
Yes. Now is the time for hip hop to meet Shop Till You Drop,
it must.
which was the tagline for Marcy X.
Isn't that also directed by like a weirdly overqualified director?
Well,
like
it's of
Richard
course directed by
Benjamin?
Richard Benjamin. You are correct.
Sergei Eisenstein directed that film. Yes, you're right.
Or Ricky Benjamin.
Yeah, Richard Benjamin.
This is what I find interesting. Alex, I'm so glad you're ready to talk about this. This is, of course, a Macers, but the films of Nora Ephron. It's called You've Got Podcast. We're talking about Lucky Numbers, a film that I'm going to very half-heartedly defend while just explaining why this movie, I guess, ticks off my weird fetishes because I can't actually say anything about it that makes it sound good. But
No, not good.
the 90s is this weird run of, because I think the phenomenon of which sitcom stars become movie stars and which ones don't is really interesting. Like if you look at a show like Cheers, which was so mammoth, and the obvious thing was, oh, Shelley Long will become a movie star, Ted Danson will become a movie star. Both of them made a bunch of movies and they had hits, but they never really became movie stars. Ted Danson had Three Men and a Baby and a sequel. Shelley Long had a couple, like there's the Bette Midler movie I'm forgetting the title of.
Right.
That was a big hit. But they never really became proper movie stars. You would not have bet that Woody Harrelson would be the one to connect.
He's the one, much like how Jennifer Aniston was the one.
Yeah, he is the one, and of course we await Venom 2: Let There Be Carnage, which will be the final jewel atop his film star crown.
Right.
Ted Danson, at least, he has the distinction of, I think, being the best TV actor of all time, which I think
There's
he
an argument.
is. With very little argument. I think like he's the one where he's like, I've now done everything. Like I've tried every kind of American TV genre. I've done prestige.
Yeah.
I've done multicam. I've done it all. Like, you know, did CSI just to do it. You know, like that's what Danson finally realized. He's like, I should just be the most famous TV actor ever.
And he's incredible at it.
Yes.
I think that's a good argument, and I'm not judging him for not having a better movie career because he certainly tried and he had big hits.
Yeah,
he had good performances and shit. But in the same way that it's like you wouldn't have predicted that DeVito becomes the leading man from the Taxi cast. Like those sitcoms, often the person who was the lead doesn't have the career. It's weirdly someone who seems like more of a character actor who ends up growing into something else. And then Friends is this example. People always cite it as like the show that broke sitcoms because there always used to be an understanding of like you put pretty people on procedurals. You maybe have one pretty person in a sitcom cast, but like a sitcom is mostly you get people who like come from the comedy clubs. You get people who come from Second City. You get people who come from musical theater.
Weirdos.
People want to watch people who are funny. They're weirdos. They're a collection of weirdos. And then Friends was suddenly, everyone in this cast is hot. This is a sitcom
Everyone's a hottie.
in which
everyone's getting their own movies.
a hottie.
I must say though, while you're on the subject, seeing the talking about this era of sitcom, one thing I wanted to bring up, especially seeing the four of you here visually, four of you kind of remind me of the cast of Seinfeld.
Hey.
I don't know if that's been brought up before.
What about the cast of Seinfeld? I want to say one thing about Friends before.
I just feel like the four of you could do a promotional photo shoot for Blank Check where you assume like
David's
Seinfeld
Kramer, right?
Well,
yeah, for sure. That makes the most
David's
sense.
always coming up with crazy schemes that he's trying to invent.
No, Ben.
Wait, what? I'm Kramer.
I just feel like the way that they did the Wizard of Oz photo shoot, the four of you could do the Seinfeld photo shoot.
Or that Rolling Stone where they're all in like S&M gear. Have you ever seen that? The most cursed image of all time.
Yes.
I have not.
But the Seinfeld crew in
I feel
S&M
like the four
gear.
of you could, maybe do a Seinfeld photo shoot. I mean, David has the most Jerry energy imaginable.
Right.
Yes, I am obviously the Jerry. It's like probably in the Constitution that I'm the Jerry. Like, that's like unbreakable. Like there would need to be state action taken.
You don't wait a second. You don't think David is the one who is describing things he's done off camera and you can't tell if they're real or not?
No, I don't think so. And plus,
you don't think he's the Kramer?
If Griffin is George and your dad gets to be a wacky Frank Costanza type, it just all lines up
Absolutely.
perfectly.
Yes, that lines up.
But seeing the four of you and thinking about that era of sitcom did get my brain rushing onto the Seinfeld thing. I hope this is a compliment. I mean, I say this as with the highest praise.
Let me speak. The other thing about the Friends cast before this exits my brain. God damn it. It's 6 people. There are 6 hotties. We can't dispute this.
No.
They're all pretty enough to be movie stars.
Right. Only one of them has any comedy background, correct? Kudrow's the only one who took Second City classes.
Incorrect.
Or whatever, right?
Incorrect. Aniston auditioned for SNL, had a background in sketch comedy, was on a short-lived Fox sketch comedy show.
Take it back. I forgot. I had no idea, to be honest.
The others did not. LeBlanc, Perry, Cox, obviously.
They're just actors.
They're theater.
Schwimmer
They're
was
drama
on
school
NYPD
people.
Blue. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, they were drama school, moved to Hollywood people.
What do we think about the double take? Are we into it? Do we like it?
The
Chandler's
double
move.
takes are funny.
Remember his running bit where he kept doing double takes?
I love a double take.
great.
I love a spit take.
I like a
triple
spit take. Double takes, they stink.
What?
Come on. Wait.
You're saying you don't like a double take?
What?
Wait a second.
Wait,
Hold on. What? And for the listener at home, we're all doing double takes
with
and
a
you can't see
pause
them.
in the middle where someone looks and then they're like,
Do you like a slow double take as well, where they like someone slowly turns back around?
Yeah, I like it all.
Like
And the
Joey
camera
would do
just
that.
like,
This is great audio content to all be
It's
doing double
rules.
takes the second
All right.
Ben says it.
hey, we're recording
The
video.
cast of Friends is fascinating. The genre of Friends movies is fascinating. And I think they're mostly extinct by 97, 98, which makes this as like an above the title studio release kind of an outlier. Because I think by 2000, most of the cast is not doing that anymore.
I think 2000 is the cutoff point. I think because it's whole 9 yards and this, I think that's really, this is the last proper year of it. But here's what I think is interesting about your theory. Aniston is the one who goes on to have a film career, but for most of the 90s, people were like, why isn't she connecting? What she does in the 2000s, what she does essentially starting the next year is, I'm going to play second banana to every major A-list comedy leading man. Mm-hmm. She becomes a star by just being like, I'll take the thankless role in Bruce Almighty, in Along Came Polly, how she finally becomes a movie star.
Well, yeah, because they kick her off with Picture Perfect and things that are more just like, well, she must be a rom-com leading lady. And,
Right,
And there's
right.
just
She's
that
Meg Ryan.
automatic resistance where it's like, no, that's a TV actor. You know, that line used to be so firm. And so people are like not interested. But the thing about Kudrow that you got, I mean, like the opposite of Sex, she won Critics Awards for that. And she had Romeo and Michelle the same year. So I think with Kudrow, people are like, this is like an intelligent comedy actress who, you know, she's a perfect fit for Nora Ephron. It makes total sense.
She was always quietly the best actor on that show, but her along with
especially
Joey,
how it's aged, especially watching it now, she's running laps around everyone else.
Yes.
Absolutely. And I'm
She
so
rules.
excited anytime she shows up in anything. Obviously, like comeback people have come around to and recognized how much it was slept on. But I think watching
Except
that
it's also
show,
one of those funny things where people were like, everyone just agreed that the second season doesn't exist. And nobody, after wanting more of it for like a decade, we got it. And everyone was like, oh.
There's the one perfect season that everyone likes.
Yeah, everyone was like, "Oh, yeah, that's okay." Yeah, because there was also web therapy. She does stuff.
Wasn't that sponsored by like Mitsubishi or something?
Probably. I'm sponsored by Mitsubishi.
Oh, really?
No, but I want to be.
You are right, David, though, that she is the one who had the most sort of traditional comedy bona fides going into a sitcom.
Right.
And so
And
in
she was
a way,
on Mad About You.
right. And even though she was the weirdo character, that she was the character who was sort of the most limited in her game. So it was hard to track what kind of movie star she could be. Whereas someone like Aniston, you'd go, well, I know I can see her in a rom-com. It was like, who does Kudrow play? Because it was such a character actor performance. It was not a movie star, a star energy performance on Friends. But then she also seems to be kind of like, I don't have anything to prove. I'm going to do whatever I feel like.
And then right off the bat, her appearance in this movie has that thing from this time period of like, this person you know from TV is cursing.
Yes.
Isn't that something?
Yes, and here's like I bet you can't imagine Phoebe having sex, right? Like that, all the shit that's like pointedly out of character for Phoebe.
It's a little different because Courtney Cox had been in the Scream movies, which obviously have.
But she has the weirder career because she had that as a big franchise and did no comedies. She after Friends, she does no romantic comedies or anything like that.
No, she really just. I mean,
she's in
really
the highest grossing movies because of Scream and also the fewest movies of the whole cast.
But she was also the one who had done the most before the show. She's unusual in that sense. She was the most famous.
I was gonna say that's what I know her from.
Everyone knew her from the Springsteen video, right?
She's in the He-Man movie. She's ostensibly the lead of the He-Man movie more than
she plays
He-Man.
Jerry's pretend wife on an episode of Seinfeld.
Yeah,
she was in a lot of Family Ties. She had like a big recurring role on that.
She had done the most work. Yeah.
Matt LeBlanc was like, plucked out of, I guess, like Red Shoe
ketchup
Diaries,
commercial, right? Isn't he in like a ketchup commercial or something?
A handsome boy,
right?
And obviously he
Schwimmer
has
was
the
like a
least
theater
movie star.
guy,
who had been on NYPD Blue.
Right. And Aniston was like the queen of failed pilots. Like that was her reputation, was she booked a pilot every year and never went.
And of course,
Leprechaun. He's going to say Leprechaun.
And she was in Leprechaun.
Yeah, I mean, you can't not talk about Leprechaun. Apparently she's dancing in the McDonald's scene in Mac and Me, which I didn't know.
Hey,
I believe
That's exciting.
question about pilots. Like, are those just sitting somewhere? Like all of
Yes.
these pilots all over the years? It would be fascinating to get to watch
Isn't that
them.
wild?
It would be really cool. They should release it.
Yeah, some of them leak out. Some of them end up getting released for different reasons years later, but it's so bizarre that so many of them are just like, yes, we shot this. We spent a couple $1 million making this. It has famous people in it. People are curious about it. We will never let it be seen.
I like
Eric Stoltz
imagining
just,
them.
Sorry,
Oh, go
Ange,
ahead.
go ahead.
Yes.
I'm just going to brag for 2 seconds, but you go ahead. It's more interesting.
Oh, I was just going to say, I imagine all those pilots like in a cave on top of a mountain somewhere, like left to be discovered someday. That's where they all have to go.
A lot of stuff is stored in mountains, in salt mines. A lot of Hollywood ephemera. Stoltz, future portrayer of Ben Hosley, whether he knows it or not, sent me the Imagine Television Tommy Schlamme directed Noah Baumbach pilot that Stoltz is in.
Whoa.
Called 30, which is not track downable, and he sent it to me recently, and it's no good. They didn't pick it up because
It's no good. It's a no good.
it seems. I mean, it's like 2000, and it seems like they're saying like, Noah, can you write something like Friends, but it's your voice? His answer is like, I don't think I can, but I'll try. But it was weird, just like sitting here watching like a dead air, no laugh track, 30-minute unaired pilot from 20 years ago.
But is it a multi-camera just without a live studio
I don't think it
audience?
is multi-camera. I think it's single camera. It's very like location-y. But yeah, pilots are weird.
There is a pilot version of Blazing Saddles that they put on most of the home video releases in which Lou Gossett Jr. plays the Cleavon Little part. And I think it's Steve Landesberg playing Gene Wilder. And it's all shot on like a Western backlot, but they put a laugh track in all of it. And so it feels like you're watching a live action Hanna-Barbera cartoon. Like that weird thing where it's like, who is supposed to be laughing at Scooby-Doo right now? This is animated. Who are these adults?
Right.
Who are apparently watching the animator draw these things and laughing hysterically? I don't know. That's my side tangent. I'm sorry.
Great. But I thought that this is like one of the later Friends movies, and we'll get to Marcy X.
Yeah.
We'll come back to that. But I thought this was interesting to see her in this movie. When David and I were talking about this, when he refused to let me do it, he said she's one of the most cursed above the title actresses.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's
I
like,
agree with that.
I love her when she's, I think she is so incredible in The Opposite of Sex.
Yeah. And Romeo and Michelle.
Love Romeo and Michelle. So that one kind of doesn't count because that's early. But like, yeah, Lucky Numbers, Hanging Up, Marcy X, like it becomes this kind of like cringy thing where it's like, how can this be happening to her? Like, we know she's talented. Like, how is it she gets the cruddiest projects?
I agree with that, and I also agree with Alex's sentiment that David has gone mad with power.
In David's defense, I did see while I was waiting to do this today another bad article about the future of Quibi. So David obviously has a lot of.
He's got a lot on his mind.
Quibi is going from strength to strength, and I mean, like every day Quibi gains subscribers, and I think that statement said without any other facts or figures is just a sign of how strong Quibi is doing.
You could reboot Lucky Numbers as a Quibi series.
We did. It's up there.
You know what the lucky number is? The lucky number is 10, as in under 10 minutes.
Yeah, no, we did it. Barbara Streisand and we're throwing money around. Warren Beatty's in it. It's great.
You have a gender swapped octogenarian Lucky Numbers Quibi reboot in which Warren Beatty plays the lotto guy and Barbara Streisand plays the weather woman.
Yeah, and all we had to do is annex Canada for Barbara Streisand. People don't realize this, but we actually bought the country for her at the low price of $40 trillion. and it's all coming around. Look, we got there was a bit of a hiccup because no one wanted to watch any of our shit or pay for the service, but now we're just gonna push through that. That was just a hiccup.
Well, congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah. And thank you for taking a break to talk about one of the sources of your revenue.
He's really not doing well, Alex. I've been getting really frightening text messages all hours of the day and night.
It's mostly just like, have you downloaded yet? And a link to the app.
Please, we need a couple more people to meet our quota today. If you haven't yet, please download.
Now available on Nokia N-Gauges. We're available on any kind of phone, okay?
David.
Yeah.
Let me ask you a question.
Okay, you're allowed.
Are you still wearing polo blue from a high school girlfriend?
Oh, you mean like, the old cologne you got that's rattling around in the bathroom? Is that what you mean?
Yeah, but I mean very specifically, are you still wearing polo blue from a high school girlfriend?
All right, you got me. I'm still wearing polo blue from a high school girlfriend.
Wow,
all right?
I can't believe I got that right. I mean, that was just a thought starter on this ad copy, but they have you dead to rights.
Yes, I am not a cologne shopper, an experienced cologne shopper, okay?
David, I have a good recommendation for you then.
Okay.
Hawthorne, David.
Hawthorne, of course.
Yeah. We're talking great smelling, personalized, premium quality ingredients, convenient, easy to buy online, luxurious packaging, colognes.
Now, did you get your little Hawthorne package? Because it came to me, big box.
Oh, came to me. I had to make a bunch of choices. Had to answer some questions.
Yeah, let's talk about it because
Hawthorne's not just cologne.
No, they got all kinds of stuff.
Deodorant, shampoo, body wash, face cleanser, lotion. David.
No, it's not. It's you can get all kinds of beauty products, for men, and you do this survey on their website, but it's not like, I don't know. It's not asking you questions you wouldn't already know. Okay. So it's asking you about your hair and skin. Sure. But it's also like, are you more of a whiskey guy or a vodka guy? Like what are aromas you might be interested in? Those kinds of things. And it puts together a little package for you.
It's not asking you what was the #1 movie at the box office October 2000. You don't need to have a broken brain that memorizes the box office in order to fill out the Hawthorne questionnaire. It's simple, it's easy, and then you get a box of nice stuff that's personalized for you.
You get I got a work cologne. It's a little more fresh and aquatic. And I got a play cologne, okay? That's woody and airy, okay? Got some face cleanser, like you said, face lotion, shampoo and conditioner, deodorant, a bar soap, body lotion, hand cream, a hand wash. I got all that stuff in one big package.
I'm sorry, did you say your cologne was woody?
It is woody.
Buzz!
It's very woody. And yeah, it was really easy to fill out the questionnaire. All the products are really nice. And if you're into it, you can just set it up to deliver every month. Yeah.
They're not going to ask for your social security number. It takes less than 2 minutes to do. And guess what, David?
What?
It's totally risk-free.
It is risk-free. It has free shipping, free returns. It's very easy to use. And now pay attention, Griffin. You can check out Hawthorne
very closely.
You can check out Hawthorne at hawthorne.co. Now that's Hawthorne with an E and .co, not anything else. It's .co.
Yes.
And you can use our promo code CHECK to get 10% off your first purchase. Okay, so I'm going to spell this out. HAWTHORNE.co and use code CHECK to get 10% off your purchase. It's hawthorne.co.
This is a thing I find very fascinating about Kudra. 1997 is all three of the movies that really work for her. Romy and Michelle, Opposite of Sex, Clock Watchers. All three of them are in 1 year. And they're all one's a weird studio comedy. The other two are independent films in which she gives really good performances, works with good directors, right? People were like, okay, she's carving out a lane for herself. She's not trying to be a rom-com star. She's trying to be a female comedy star, a character actor comedy star. And then it's pretty much analyze this 2 years later. There's a big hit. She's above the title.
You'll cover that, of course.
We'll
cover this.
I want to point out, she's technically below the title. It's Robert De Niro. Here, and you know what? I'm actually going to narrate the entire poster now.
Okay,
because
please
I
do.
Called it up. Robert De Niro,
Please do.
Billy Crystal, and then you got a picture of De Niro going, and Billy Crystal. He's listening. He's got the hand to his
in
ear.
a Harold Ramis film. Yeah.
Well, New York's most powerful gangster is about to get in touch with his feelings. Okay. That's tagline A. Analyze this. Now you ready for tagline B?
Mm-hmm.
You capitalized and underlined. You try telling him his 50 minutes are up. And Lisa Kudrow. That's the thing. And then below the second tagline, it says, and Lisa Kudrow.
So she gets the and.
The idea that someone's like 95% of the way into seeing the movie, reading that second tagline. I'm like, oh, I wouldn't want to tell him his 50 minutes are up. Oh, wait, and Lisa Kudrow. Okay, all right.
I feel like
You're
this
throwing
has
in
become
Kudrow for free?
Such a dependably enjoyable part of the show lately, where David is narrating these posters that have multiple taglines.
I love narrating a poster.
People love it.
You do it with such brio and joy and every time you do it, it's a perfect example. That must have been
People
quite
have
a
been
negotiation.
like animating them
to get her on the poster, but they're like,
Yes.
she can't be with those two guys. Those guys are legends.
Right, because the image is so indelible. De Niro, you know.
But no one else is in this. Like, we're not going to put like Jelly or whatever his name is on the poster.
Right.
So no one else is getting on the poster. But we'll give her.
Jelly is pretty good though. He could be like maybe at the window, like, you know, kind of like peeking.
We will put her name on the poster, and we will give her the and on the poster, which is rare.
Right.
I apologize for going further afield, but I must. Do you know that in the trailer for Analyze That, the way they do the billing with the narrator is what?
For that.
This or that. That.
For the second film. Okay. I'm not talking about this anymore. I'm talking about that, okay? And the trailer for Analyze That, it goes like Robert De Niro, Billy Crystal, Lisa Kudrow, and then they list 10 more names by character. They go like Jelly, Old Tony, Don Vitro, Michael Jr. They list the other gangsters by character as if they were all that iconic, all the supporting actors.
All your favorites are
pretty
back.
iconic.
I mean, they were that iconic, but they weren't this iconic.
They weren't this iconic, but they were that iconic. And actually, Ange, that's 100 comedy points.
Thank you very much.
At least.
Jelly!
Wait, now I'm watching the trailer now.
But yeah, while David does that, can I do the Travolta rundown?
Please.
Of post, because this I found fascinating, because he and this movie, to me, I'm watching this movie called Lucky Numbers. And if you've never...
I just want to say the final credited mobster is called Lou the Wrench.
Of course.
Monster?
Mobster.
Okay.
Yeah.
They
sounds like
also
one of
have
the-
monsters in it.
That sounds like one of the scumbags that would be sort of orbiting the caper in this movie.
The Lucky Numbers verse. Yes.
I'm watching this movie and I'm just thinking, imagine that you don't know who the lead actor in this movie is. It's just someone's like, this guy is famous, but I won't tell you for what. You'll watch it and you will think, no one has
no
ever
cultural context.
has been more evidently not a movie star than this performance I am seeing in this movie. What John Travolta is doing in this movie is so repellently unlikable and uncharismatic and unfunny and uncharming that just to watch it, you're like, I cannot believe that this movie is 6 years after Pulp Fiction.
I can't deny it. For someone who is at his peak, one of the most electrically charming actors, like, you know, in Saturday Night Fever or Pulp Fiction, right? Like in this movie, you're like, does he know that he's playing like a person who's supposed to be charming? Like, does he know that he's playing a human being who hosts a television show?
A disastrous performance.
It's unbelievable.
And
also, but it's like a performance that's like, this is the performance he would have given if he had never made Pulp Fiction or Get Shorty. Like this goes straight from early 90s, jumps over his resurgence right back into the gutter.
Even seeing him against Tim Roth, I was having that thought.
Yeah. I'm like, I want to hang out with Tim Roth. Like, he seems like a nice
really
guy.
Roth is good in this.
But watching this, I was thinking, like, is Travolta, like, he just seems like a guy who's like, he's born to lose. He's like addicted to not being great, even though he had it all for a minute.
But Alex, take us through his post-Michael
This
career,
is going to blow your
which is
well, first,
his
let me just set the
post-Pulp
stage.
Fiction career.
So Michael, which you've covered, is December 96.
And he's a hit.
Capping off a year. This is like a Jim Carrey 94. February 96, Broken Arrow. July 96, Phenomenon. All $100 million movies, I think, or at least big hits.
Broken Arrow, I think, may not have been quite $100 million. Phenomenon definitely was, which no one remembers.
You'll come back to that when you do my
disappointment.
When you do my my John Woo in Hollywood miniseries that I told you should do.
I mean, Broken Arrow is a movie that I think is okay and has some good stuff, and Travolta's doing his fun villain thing in it, and some people go to the mat for it.
Ben, do you like Broken Arrow?
Some people are like,
well, I didn't see that movie because of Under the Best Intentions.
You saw it to learn how to steal thermonuclear weapons.
Is that? Yeah. Yeah. No, is that the movie with Halle Berry?
That is not. That's
Swordfish.
that is Swordfish.
Okay.
That is Swordfish.
You would like Broken. I mean, I like Broken Arrow.
I
You would
haven't
like
seen
it.
Broken Arrow.
Yeah.
It's like Travolta's like a criminal who steals a nuclear weapon. And Christian Slater
in
is
Broken Arrow, right? Christian Slater is the guy who has to get it back.
All right.
But the
Slater's
line is
in
like,
it.
yeah. The line is like, we have a broken arrow. And they're like, well, what does that mean? And it's like, well, that's a nuclear weapon has been stolen. They're like, well, it's clearly like why do we have a word for that?
I believe.
Like,
okay, let me
joke.
try. I think I can
Go
get
ahead.
this almost spot on. He goes, I don't know what's
Okay,
worse.
go ahead.
That
Yeah,
you
there you
haven't.
go. That's it.
I don't know what's worse. That a thermonuclear weapon has been stolen, or that it happens so often you have a name for it.
That's a great line.
I think that movie also has Samantha Mathis in it. Speaking
100%.
of,
Yes.
She's the female
Right,
lead. She's,
right. There are 3 Slater Mathis movies.
Ben was helping me get this microphone set up, which he graciously loaned me and brought to my house.
Yes.
He texts me at 12:56. Hey, also.
AM.
No, this is in the afternoon. Hey, also. I watched Bicentennial Man. Me, 12:57. Absurd. Ben, can I move there? Me, probably not. I've never seen it. 2:12. Ben, wait, fuck, I meant Johnny Mnemonic.
I got them mixed up. They're both future people, future man,
That's literally the only thing they have in common. What
Only
you
thing.
just said.
Future
And
Man.
also, just aesthetically, no movie could almost be less Ben's vibe than Bicentennial
That's why I was
Man.
confused. I was like,
Right.
wow, Ben's really caught up with everything during COVID.
He's reached the end of Netflix.
He's just watching
Yeah.
any movie with any android in it in hopes that it gives him
Yeah.
something.
If you actually watch everything on Netflix, you have to watch Bicentennial Man last, but then the site reloads and now Bicentennial Man is in every movie on Netflix. It's like when you beat a video game and you get to keep your weapons, like suddenly anything you watch Bicentennial Man
Or
is
like
just
in
there.
Super Mario World where like it all changes to autumn when you beat it.
Exactly.
I wish you could unlock big head mode on Netflix, and then every movie you watched had a tiny body and a really big head. That was my favorite thing to do in video games.
David, maybe if you add that to Quibi, you'll fix your money woes.
Yeah, add big
Oh,
head
we
mode.
did add it to Clippy. We did. Yeah, we did. Yeah, we brought. Oh no, I'm not. Whatever. I'm going to stop making Quippy jokes.
John Travolta,
Carry on.
1997. June,
Okay, yes.
Face Off. August, She's So Lovely.
Huge.
November, Mad City. Another hat trick year.
But I mean, she's so lovely in Mad City.
Wait a second.
I'm saying that's another year where he has 3
Yes.
wide release movies that are studio
Correct.
movies that he is like in the movie.
But 2 of them flop.
Face Off is him working with Wu again, and Wu being like, "What you were doing in Broken Arrow? Let's just do more of that. Like, let's have
More,
you be even
bigger.
bigger." And it works really well. Mad City is a Costa Gavras.
Sure.
English language political thriller with
You
Dustin
know.
Hoffman that
Yeah.
I must confess I have never seen.
It's like a movie with men in it from the 90s. Some guys who were
Hey.
famous in the 70s.
Not a hit.
March 98, Primary Colors. December 98, the same day, Thin Red Line, which is obviously not really in the movie,
He has
and a
one
Civil
scene,
Action.
he's giving a speech. Yeah.
Civil Action is his movie.
Yeah, Civil Action's a great movie. I love that movie.
But that's, those are 2 big movies, again, like 9 months apart. Like he's putting them out like every 5 to 8 months here, essentially.
My man's working. He's got planes to fuel.
I would say from Pulp Fiction, 94, where he gets an Oscar nomination on, he is in a film that could at least be considered for awards contention, right? Like Get Shorty, Michael and Phenomenon, maybe not so much Face Off, She's so, whatever, but like Civil Action, Primary Color, like he's in films
Yes.
that studios will position properly. Like, I'm sure
Yes, he is a movie star. He is a movie star of American proportions.
But he's doing both. He's doing like blockbusters and legitimate films. Like he's
June-
trying to get Oscars and have action movies in the
Exactly.
same year.
June 99,
right.
General's Daughter.
Big hit.
May 2000.
Huge hit.
Battlefield Earth.
Right. And then it's now we just drive straight off a
October
fucking
2000, Lucky Numbers.
Yeah,
And then just
here
as
we
a
go.
little epilogue, June 01, Swordfish, November 01, Domestic Disturbance, and now it's over.
Right.
Yeah.
Now the next time you see him, he's like the bad guy in The Punisher.
Yes.
Well, right. There's Basic, which is sort of like, it's like another epilogue, but like there's been coffee
Huge
spilled all
flop.
over it or something.
Yes.
Huge flop. And there's Ladder 49, which I guess is him.
But that's like
being
03, 03
That's 04. 04.
Yeah, so like that's like after. I'm just saying like this run of his ends now. Like between Battlefield Earth and this movie,
Absolutely.
it ends. And also when I watched him
Yes.
and Nora on Charlie Rose 30-minute interview, he has the swordfish goatee just on sitting there at the table with her, and she's acting like he doesn't have it on his face. It's
Is that
unbelievable.
somehow the
amazing.
most offensive thing at that table?
Weirdly, yes. On any other episode, you would have to blur out Charlie Rose for people. On this one, he can stay, but Travolta's little razor thin line is something that needs a warning now.
I also think, and we've talked about this, but like all the post 2000 movies, he's kind of playing like elder statesman support for the new movie star. Like even if he's
Sometimes.
first billed. But I'm saying like Swordfish is Hugh Jackman's movie, even if Travolta's first build. Ladder 49 is Joaquin Phoenix's movie, even if Travolta's first build.
Love
Punisher
Song for
is
Bobby
certainly.
Long.
When is Hairspray?
Hairspray's 07.
Here's the thing. This is what's so weird about John Travolta.
Everything.
Battlefield Earth, Lucky Numbers, 1-2 Punch of 2000 is certainly more than enough to consign him to like laughing stock territory, right?
Yes,
like
full body blow.
This is
Yes.
And by the way, when Charlie Rose asks him about it, he just calls it Battleship.
great.
Which not that we
Good
need
job,
to give him
Johnny.
any comedy points. He doesn't deserve anything, but it is funny to call it Battleship to Travolta's
Charlie
face.
Rose, like beyond being an absolute fucking monster, was the worst interviewer ever. Like his whole
worst. The
thing
absolute
where he
worst.
was like, he's so terrible. Anytime I ever saw him, he'd just be like, anyway, so huh? Like that's what his interview style was. I don't understand how he was a serious journalist for so many years. That being said,
I just want to say
John
something about
Travolta.
Charlie Rose very quickly.
Oh,
Okay.
God.
Because I don't think I've ever talked about this on the podcast. I was cut out of, yet still somehow receive very minimal residuals for the Chris Rock movie Top 5.
Congrats.
Thank you.
You were just below the 5. You were
I was 6. I was number 6.
you didn't. Make
Bottom 5.
I make tens of dollars off of that movie.
hey,
what is that movie
but-
about?
a comedian. It's like autobiographical,
Chris
right?
Rock was a guy. Yeah.
What if like a comedian had a midlife thing where he talked to his friends about comedy?
But this is the crazy thing. It's about what if Chris Rock became Denzel Washington? Like, what if he then became the most serious,
But not in, like, a
legitimate,
face-off way.
respected
Then you get the
actor?
Saw
Yes.
spinoff.
So, in what is now just part of the opening montage of that movie, in which a lot of stuff is happening for context, to explain to you, show you how famous this Chris Rock character is, there is little snippets of Charlie Rose conducting a New York Times talk with Chris Rock, and he's asking him questions about his career. And the entire day is just shooting that. It's just Charlie Rose, Chris Rock on stage. I was one of the kids asking some dumb fucking question in the audience. He has all of his lines on note cards in front of him. He is playing Charlie Rose, conducting an interview off of note cards, and he fucked up every single line for 12 consecutive hours. And his one job is, you have to make it seem like this guy is so successful that everyone remembers the name of every movie he's been in. And Charlie Rose kept on getting the guy's name wrong. He kept on addressing Chris Rock by the wrong name.
He's an
As
idiot.
Chris Rock.
He's a moron.
Well, yeah.
Calling him Chris Rock or calling him like John Edwards, and he's like, it's Jake Edmonds. Like it kept on being
Classic. When I say hello, Mr. Thompson, and step on your foot, you say hello.
Yes. It was one of those.
What was your line?
My line was, do you still consider yourself to be a hip hop comedian?
There you go. $12 a month.
I mean, did he?
Did he?
He did.
I will also say the only other tidbit from the Charlie Rose, Travolta, Efron interview that I watched while Griffin was delaying this 2 hours to also watch Cabin Boy.
Half an hour. I delayed it half an hour to watch Cabin Boy.
You guys all stop yelling. I want to make my Travolta point. Get this over. Come on.
The only thing he said, which will potentially feed your point, is he says in this interview conducted sometime in middle 2000, him and Tom Hanks are the same, according to him at this. And he says, every script I get has Hanks's fingerprints on it. Every script he gets has my fingerprints on it. I couldn't do Green Mile. He couldn't do Primary Colors. We ended up doing a lot of roles to get offered to one or the other. And Charlie Rose says to Nora Ephron, so was Tom Hanks someone you ever thought could be in this, or John Travolta ever be in You've Got Mail? And she's like, no. And that's kind of the gist of it. But I don't view them as really peers or equals, but John Travolta views them he views them that way.
I can see how maybe Travolta's like, well, we were both on sitcoms and he was the first choice for Primary Colors. That's about it. That's about as far as I can take it.
We were both in big movies in 1994.
Right. I mean, it's like they weren't in the same lane. Yeah.
But he probably views a Civil Action as a Tom Hanks type, movie.
Sure.
Whatever. Anyway, he thinks they're more similar than they are.
This is the thing. Travolta's energy is unlike anyone else's energy. Correct?
Correct.
That's one way to put it. Sure.
Who's like Travolta? I guess Cage is the most similar in a weird sort of a way.
Cage is totally different.
But like Face Off works because they are both actors when they are doing their thing, that like their movie star thing. You're like, how on earth does this work?
They're like lines that never quite cross, but they got really close at Face Off and then just separated again.
It works because they're equally weird, but I would argue they're weird in different ways. Yeah,
they're weird in very different ways, but they both are sort of that thing where like if you showed someone one movie of theirs and they'd be like, you're telling me this guy was like a huge, successfully famous actor, movie star. Like what?
Yeah.
A romantic leading man, Oscar contender, all those things. And I'm saying post Battlefield Earth lucky numbers, which should be the death blow, but the man is a cockroach. Like he's been dealt death blows before and he's never died, right? Like his career has survived everything.
I mean, Speed kills, but Travolta doesn't. Yeah,
exactly. I mean, we talk about this a little in the Michael episode, but like, so even though you have total flops like Basic, and he still just will make leading man movies like Wild Hogs or. Even Taking Pelham 1 2 3, where it's like in Taking Pelham 1 2 3, that performance is unhinged. Everyone else is doing kind of like gritty, grounded work, like it's a decent movie, and then he's just in it like doing something and you're like, why is he still in the club in a weird way? You know what I mean?
Well, I quoted this in our Michael episode, but it's worth saying again, because it really applies for this movie, that you look at the fact that like Travolta and Cruise are the two most prominent Scientologists, and you're like, Tom Cruise is such a good spokesperson for that horrible fucking organization, because he is like, look at how high functioning he is. Look at how well he's aged. Look at how youthful and focused he is. He's at such a high performance level. And then Travolta is like the opposite, where it just seems like he has no sense of who he is. He lacks such complete self-awareness, even just down to his like styling choices. And a film like this, where you're just like, Cruise has never given a performance like this, where he just fundamentally misunderstands how he reads on camera, what movie he's in, what the movie is calling for, whether or not he should have made this film. Like Cruise in something like Rock of Ages, you go like, you got to give him credit. He went for it. Like the guy doesn't embarrass himself. And Cruise in a disaster movie is like Mummy, where you're like, well, you miss sometimes. But Cruise never does this.
John Travolta in this movie is bad. And this movie is
quite
bad. But
it's pretty good.
But we all watched it, and I listened to an entire commentary about it.
Did you watch it 2 times?
No. I watched the movie with Anna the other night. I bought the DVD, which, as you know, was something we were waiting for, which I still think we should give away. We should all sign this and give it away somehow, someday. And then I recorded the commentary onto my phone and then listened to it while I was doing yard work over the weekend.
Wow. So you turned the commentary into a podcast, essentially.
How did you to record it onto your phone? I'm fascinated.
Oh, it's very pathetic. I took my old phone that I don't use anymore, that I don't even know how to work it. I turned on voice memo, put it in front of the TV, played commentary, recorded it.
Old school.
came back like an hour and 45 minutes later and then sent it to myself.
Wow.
That rules.
Which was the only thing I could figure out. But honestly, like I wanted to listen to it because I really love Nora Ephron as a writer, as a personality, as a very funny woman. And I really like just what she has to say about things is funny. Like I've never listened to a commentary of hers, but I have no doubt that they're all funny.
She's a great
one of the wittiest people alive.
I thought, at the very least, like
formally
100 minutes of her riffing is going to be funny. And also like, this is such an outlier in everything she's done, everything she is as a writer, as a personality.
The only movie she didn't write herself.
Yes.
This is the only time she directed someone else's script.
I'm sure she'll say some funny stuff, but also there has to be some insight as to what the deal is with this. Because if it was just a disaster that she walked away from, she wouldn't have done a commentary. And I wanted to listen to it.
Sure.
And it delivered on all those things. It was insightful and she had some great lines.
So, but when she's doing the commentary, does she know the movie is bombed? Because sometimes I feel like they do those right when the movie's about to come out.
There is no discussion of response to the movie at all.
Sure.
Critical audience, the Cinema Score F is not mentioned.
I was about to say, this is one of the early F Cinema scores, probably
which is amazing.
One of the most famous.
Jumping ahead a little bit, because typically movies, I think, that get an F Cinema Score, like, not to spoil Lucky Numbers, end with like the death of the main character or like something that's like very unpleasant.
There's two kinds.
There's the box, which is like the last 20 minutes of this movie are such a confusing nightmare. Also, I love, but like, or there's the like, this is an anti-hero who gets killed and fuck this movie. I'm giving it an F. And this movie has like kind of an uplifting coda where it's like, and here's how everything worked out. And then people are like, F.
But that's the thing, right? It's usually like some horror movie that people were just like, absolutely not. I despised every minute. Or some movie where they're like, I did not get what I was promised, right? Solaris, Mother, those sorts of where it's like, I
killing
was
them
walking in
softly.
expecting this, killing them softly.
Right.
And I just did not get what I wanted.
Now, can I simplify it even further? I think it is movies where audiences are so freaked out by how different it is than what they were sold, right?
Yes.
And with horror films, it's like, this took a turn that is not what I expect out of a horror movie. And those other movies you're talking about are like, they tried to sell them as more conventional genre things, and those films were not that.
That's another one, right? Bug, the Wicker Man, speaking of Nicolas Cage.
This movie is exactly what it was sold as. Like, that's what you have to think about, because an F Cinema Score isn't, the focus testing was terrible. These are people we plucked out from a mall who hated this movie they had no concept of. It's people who went out of their way to buy a ticket and go see it in theaters opening weekend. So it has to be deceptive marketing in some way.
Well, and it means that every single one of them, as they walked out and were asked, like, hey, graded out of A to F, were like, F. Every single one was like F.
Exactly.
Because that's how hard it is to get an F Cinema Score. It's why it happens like once a year, maybe.
Isn't it like 40 movies total that have gotten
less? Far less.
20 movies total have gotten an F
this
Cinema
is one
Score.
of them.
Yes.
And this is one of those hallowed films.
Which is incredible because, again, truly, like, the movies like that, like Mother, where it's just like, I don't know what this is. A baby gets torn apart. Like, I'm repulsed. This does end with the main character going like, everyone who was bad got punished. And as for me, well, I guess I'm just lucky. F.
This is my point.
So funny to me.
If you see the trailer for this movie and go, that looks good, I want to see that, and then pay to go see this movie opening weekend, I don't understand how you come out of it so irate about the quality of the movie relative to what you were expecting.
I have to imagine that it's just people who felt that the Nora Ephron of it was oversold, and they were like,
or the Travolta of it, or whatever.
Like a man and a woman that are famous in a Nora Ephron movie. I have some sense of what this is, and what you get is like a 6th generation Xerox of like a 90s black comedy, which I have a huge list of that I want to read, because I do want to talk, while we talk about this, about the black comedy, because I think this is one of them. And the more research I did, the more fascinated I got, just trying to come up with something of a definitive list of like, what were these movies and why were there so many of them? The obvious answer being Reservoir Dogs and Fargo.
Yes.
Begat
Reservoir Dogs
a
and
genre.
Sex, Lies, and Videotape. It's that those are the movies, and Hollywood's like, can we make?
But I really put Fargo in there as well, because I think between Reservoir Dogs and Fargo, it's like a slow start. But Fargo, which is like a comedy, and a guy gets thrown a wood chipper, changes the game, and then people are. And the one, I think the most important moment that like births the black comedy is Travolta shooting Marvin in the head. Like that.
That's huge.
A head being blown off as a punchline combined with Fargo as a wood chipper punchline. To me, like now this is a genre unto itself.
Well, can I throw a little wrench into your argument?
Please, and I hope you say something on my list.
You're forgetting Heathers. I feel like
I am not forgetting Heathers. It's on my list of pre movies.
Right.
Okay, because I think there's another person you got to give some credit to. I
have Serial Mom written here too.
I think that's big.
John Waters is a huge one. Yeah.
We talked about this a little bit in Mix Nuts. I have a weirdly big soft spot for like major studio, major movie star 90s and 80s black comedies like this and early 2000s black comedies. Because it's one of those things that almost never works. And they always go like, this script is so dark, it's so good. All these actors are attracted to it. This big director's attracted to it. And then it comes out and everyone rejects it violently.
Almost every time. The list I'm going to read is a list of movies that are failures and people don't remember fondly.
Now, here's the big exception who I think makes people still try to do this, although it's finally maybe dried up. That DeVito did it twice successfully. Right. That DeVito had War of the Roses and Throw Mama from the Train, and you're like, here's a big star. He's making movies with other big stars. Both of them are like pitch black, violent, really, really dark comedies that were big hits and critically respected.
And I will say that my list in its vague chronology has only one movie after Death to Smoochie, a DeVito joint written by the writer of Lucky Numbers.
Yes, that is true. But no, beyond the DeVito ones you mentioned, there's Ruthless People and Other People's Money and stuff like that. Like that was just a whole genre for him.
DeVito as a movie star and as a director, like he was able to mine this thing better than anyone else.
So here's my list of some of these. And what I'm saying, I already mentioned Heathers and Serial Mom. And these are not in order. Very Bad Things. Death to Smoochie, Duplex, To Die For, which I think this movie owes a lot to, which has not been, which she does not acknowledge in the commentary, and Adam Resnick does not acknowledge in what I read with him. But I think that this movie, at its best, could have been a bad version of To Die For, which is a great movie, I think. The entire work of Todd Solondz, Jawbreaker, Drop Dead Gorgeous, Cable Guy, Gross Point Blank, Clay Pigeons, Teaching Miss Tingle, and Bad Santa.
Yeah, see, I like almost all of the movies you just cited.
Where is Addicted to Love? I don't understand.
Oh, David's favorite.
My favorite, which
Would
is
Bandits
a huge
be included on here?
I think
Bandits is more of a dramedy.
It's like heisty, it's double crosses and like criminals who are the main character, like shit like that. I just feel like this is that. This is right in the kind of right at the tail end of all that.
Well, Bandits is the more grounded version of it. I realize this thing that I'm a sucker for, even when it's not well done. And it's bizarre that I'm a sucker for this because it's in its description, it sounds unappealing. But I always fall for it, is like pitched like a cartoon, incredibly dark comedy about movie stars playing morally reprehensible criminals who are very stupid and fuck everything.
Palookaville, I guess, could be on here.
Palookaville is a good one.
Death to Smoochie, I would put there.
I not read that?
The Coen Brothers Lady Killer. Yes, no. I'm including it.
Well, I'm sure Travolta's fingerprints were on the Lady Killer script, just as Tom Hanks's fingerprints were on this script.
The Lady Killers is the only movie Tom Hanks has ever done that feels like it could have been a Travolta movie.
Travolta-esque, yes.
That's the only one. And
Griffin,
I like that movie.
Do you think Travolta would have given a subtle performance in The Lady Killers if he'd gotten that role?
I wish I could see Travolta's performance in The Lady Killers.
Travolta is a murdering Southern gentleman.
I wish I could see.
So have somebody make you a deep fake.
Soft-pedal that one?
Yes, I want someone that's, oh my God, yes, someone please make me a John Travolta Lady
Charlie
Killers
Rose
deepfake.
challenge, literally, and deep fake all their movies into, swap them all.
David, you sound a little quiet to me. Let me take care of that quickly.
Okay.
Oh, David, do you see what I'm doing?
Wow, look at those things.
Because you might not have noticed that I was even wearing headphones this week.
They're very small. You had to really lean in.
Yeah.
I got a little
Raycon.
lean your ear in.
I got a Raycon earbud in each year. Usually I'm wearing my $20 Bluetooth headphones
The
that
big
you make
boys.
fun of me for. They
do.
look like Roman J. Israel headphones.
They do, yes. But no, these are much classier things. This is what you have now. It's like you're an agent in the Matrix. Like,
I'm tapping like Agent Smith. I'm just going, yes.
All right. Here's what I know about
him.
Raycon.
Okay.
You've got them in your ear right now, but you already, here's what I know. They start about half the price of any other premium wireless earbud on the market, and they sound just as good.
Correct.
The newest model, the everyday E25 earbuds, they're the best ones yet. They got 6 hours of playtime, seamless Bluetooth pairing, more bass, and a more compact design. Very noise isolating.
Yes, I could make you sound like Barry White right now if I wanted. I could up
bass
that
me
bass.
up. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm all about that bass.
No trouble. Raycon's wireless earbuds are so comfortable. They're good for conference calls. They're good for binging podcasts. Maybe they're good for appearing.
Or even recording podcasts.
Wow. And they're very discreet. There's no dangling wires. Nothing to distract you.
You get back to the secret agent stuff. No one even knows.
Now, apparently the company was co-founded by Ray J and celebrities like Snoop Dogg, Cardi B, and Cleveland Cavaliers champion shooting guard J.R. Smith, who is now signing a veteran's contract with the Lakers. They are obsessed with Raycons. Pick up a pair. See what the hype is all about. Griffin, you believe the hype.
Yeah, I'm loving them. I'm having a great time right here. And I'll say this. I like to only support companies founded by Ray J. And it's made me a little bit uncomfortable up until this point in the podcast that I haven't had that opportunity.
Sure. Well, now you have, and now's the time to get the latest and greatest from Raycon. You can get 15% off your order at buyraycon.com/check. That's buyraycon.com/check for 15% off.
Okay, so I have to write a check to
All right.
Raycon.
Haven't done that in a while.
Bring back classic, baby.
The thing about Travolta that I don't really understand to this day, this is why I'm sort of ranting about it, but it's sort of like in Hairspray, when he is playing a character where the command is like big, right? Like go as big as you can. It's awful.
Yes.
But then in movies where the command isn't that, and he just he's a big sort of, domineering performer, it works fine. Like it's so weird how the tonal balance needs to be just so.
Well, right. Like at his best, this is the difference between Nicolas Cage and John Travolta. When he was in a sweet spot, he was equally good at like scaling things down and giving a Leaving Las Vegas and being a real human being and giving Face Off and going like, oh, I can go to the moon with this.
Right.
Cage at his best, and he's lost the thread, used to be very good at knowing exactly what movie he was in and giving the performance that was best suited for that movie. Travolta, you put him in something like People vs. OJ and you go, so, play a real human being, and he gives a performance that's a cartoonish, over-the-top performance, but you're like, fuck, this should be breaking the entire show, but it works.
Right.
I don't know why. It's a river of ham, but it works. Then you put him in something like this, and you're like, John, go big, and it's like a war crime.
Well, John Travolta in this movie plays a man named Russ Richards.
Russ Richards.
A great fake name. Yeah, it's like, well, also, when I was watching this, I was like, so they made her... not last movie, but like one movie ago, they made a movie together.
Yes.
So like
they clearly get along.
They should know how to work together.
Absolutely.
He's undoubtedly better in Michael, which everyone.
But he's also miscast in that movie.
He's not great in that, but at least he's giving a performance.
I mean, this performance feels like the kind of thing that happens and you would read like, and Greg Kinnear dropped out 8 days before filming. And and like, Greg Kinnear, by the way, being on a suggestion of who could have maybe played a kind of character like this a little bit better.
He'd be good.
But like, I couldn't, like, this seemed like he came into this movie with no idea and no prep. And then on the commentary, she says he was attached when she got the script.
He was all about this script. He was the one who was trying to get this thing made. Yes.
Right.
But then weirdly in the article that I read with Adam Resnick on Vulture, where he I guess is promoting his book a few years ago and talking about this, he claims the opposite. He claims that she brought Travolta in. So there seems to be some confusion,
Sure.
but I'll take her word for it over his.
Well, I have two things I want to say that are sort of related that I feel like we're about to lose. One, I have a thing about Cage and Travolta. I feel like this is what I've decided. Cage used to have a Geiger counter, and he knew his limits, right? He could point it at himself. And then I guess it broke because
and he could look around the room and go, got it, know how to match this.
With Travolta, the director needed the Geiger counter. Like, it's sort of, because that's the thing, because like in O.J. Simpson, he's over the top, but everything else is so dark and so grim, and everyone else is playing it pretty, so he's kind of fine. Like, he's just pushing the limits a little bit, and everyone else is bringing it in. That's okay. But the other thing is, you said Greg Kinnear. Solid choice. He'd be good at playing a guy who gets in over his head for sure. Yeah. 2000.
Like a
Bill
normal
Pullman
guy.
is in this movie.
Yes.
Bill Pullman would be incredible in the lead
She talks
role.
about some Pullman.
Swap them.
The commentary.
Swap them.
She talks a little Pullman in the commentary. I can get there when we get to his part.
Pullman is so fucking good in this.
He's great. Now, that's the only problem, is that he is actually very funny in his supporting
But
role.
another another Efron player coming back.
Yes.
Yeah.
A lot of them. Richard Schiff, most famous for playing the Italian restaurant waiter. And Michael, she's bringing in all her favorite leading men.
She says on the commentary that's Schiff doing the scene in the kitchen with Tim Roth, right?
Yes.
She says at the end of that scene, the crew burst out into applause because it was like watching two prize fighters just like dance around each other brilliantly.
I mean, he's good.
Wow.
I think that's an engaging scene. I think like Travolta's performance is so disastrous. And even if you guys don't like the rest of this movie, which I can't defend, you have to admit that most of the cast is doing a good job.
But that's
like
part of the
Kudrow,
problem.
Roth, Schiff,
Something that I found.
Michael Moore fits.
Well, we'll get there. We will get there.
We'll get to him.
But something she talks about almost more than anything else in the commentary, which is something that Griffin, I'm sure you'll, want to run with. And this being like, as we've talked about, like the end of the kind of Paramount comedy era. Is like all she cares about is comedy. Her respect for the idea of a comedic performance is the only thing she talks about throughout most of the commentary. She says casting comedy actors is the most important thing. She said it better than I will, but her respect for the idea of a comedic performance is so strong. She says, it's amazing how many actors we can cross off the list when we're casting a comedy. We can go down the list and write NF, and you know what that means. It means not funny. But her respect for the idea of calibrating comedic performances seems to be the main driving force in all of her approach to anything, obviously, but even in something like this.
And she rehearsed meticulously. I mean, she would rehearse like a play for all of her films to fine-tune the performance for weeks before they actually got on set.
So she cares about, so that's why the supporting cast in this, and I think kind of every movie, is always like pretty solid and all really great actors doing great work.
And this one thesis we keep on coming back to with this is that her work as a writer, a humorist, a prose writer, a nonfiction writer, before moving into film was sort of marked for its causticness, her very sort of acerbic sense of humor. And whenever she tried to put it into her movies, Alex is holding up a copy of Crazy Salad and Scribble Scabble. Whenever she tried to put it into her movies, it didn't work. It's very... What?
Oh, signed.
Oh my God. Wow. It says to Alex and Anna, all the best, Nora Ephron. Wow. Yeah. That rules.
Got a couple.
No, it's just
this too.
It's
humble.
It's
brag.
funny for someone.
Yeah, big brag. Real brag. I'm not humble. This was fun. We went to see her read.
For someone who had such good skills in terms of directing actors in comedies, is that a different?
Yeah.
How many signed Nora Ephron books do you own, Alex?
Alex
but they were
just
from the
waited
same
outside
reading.
her home.
I also have this gem. Like I said, during my extra time, I was able to walk around and pick stuff up. I have my This Is My Life tape.
Good movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, good movie.
Nice Video Depot, Mount Vernon, former rental.
Nice.
The fact that she could make these souffle movies so well and couldn't make the dark films. And then this is like, this and Mixed Nuts are the two darkest scripts she has where it's like.
And Mixed Nuts is bad. Like, I don't know. I mean,
it's not very good.
But
I like this a lot more than Mixed Nuts. I disagree.
No, that's crazy.
I disagree. And now I'm realizing,
But Mixed Nuts, I just remember
The
being
ranking
like,
is shifting.
oh, wow, there's a Nora Ephron Christmas movie that I've not seen. That must be good. And we were watching it one Christmas and we were like, ugh, so this is what Christmas looks like in California? This is disgusting.
The thing about Nora Ephron is like the ones you haven't heard of. Usually, it's like, well, there's a reason, except for This Is My Life, where like that is the one where you're like,
from the
oh, it's an
mountaintops.
unburied,
Yes.
right? Exactly, yeah.
Right. But I think like Mixed Nuts and Lucky Numbers both have the thing where if you could describe the plot to someone in a way that makes it sound like a drama. Like you could describe most of the events that happen in both films and it would not sound like a comedy. It is like comedies that are pointedly based around let's make funny material out of things that are inherently not comedic.
Which does seem like the kind of thing she would want to perfect and clearly never did.
And she kept trying and she never could get it right.
And I'll get to some of her intentions that she expresses on the commentary in this are very specifically that. But it's just like, it's also crazy to me that this is the movie she made after You've Got Mail, which is like, that is,
Yes.
I mean, one of the all-time great return to form movies, whether you love it or not.
Her highest grossing film. Yeah.
Like whether you love it or not,
like slam dunk.
That is exactly what people wanted instead of Mixed Nuts and Michael.
I know this episode's going to be 90% context, but I just want to do my very quick table setting for Adam Resnick.
And then I want to do my quick, because in addition to the signing that you now know I've gone to, I want to do, because I have 4 fun kind of run-ins with her sort of in my life-ish with Anna. And now one of them was going to the signing. There's 3 others that are fun to talk about because, again, we love her a lot and she means a lot to us, which makes watching this movie, Lucky Numbers, all the more dispiriting.
And then Romley's going to do a very quick kitchen corner.
Well, that's why I demanded it because I was curious.
David is currently bleeding out of his eyes. This is what I want to say about Resnick.
What about Resnick?
Resnick is a fascinating career.
Yeah.
Well, he's originally a Letterman guy.
And
he becomes Chris Elliott's main writer.
Right.
They become the main collaborators for all the Elliott stuff. And then he co-creates Get a Life, which is like one of the great cult TV shows in the early days of Fox.
When cult TV shows were really cult TV shows.
Yes.
They could carve out like 2 seasons. They aired at weird times.
On a network that was still getting its sea legs, that didn't have enough other programming to replace it, so it somehow eked out 2 full seasons despite being hated.
And then if you didn't know someone who taped it, it was gone.
Right. It was trading tapes or going to the Museum of Television Radio, or like it was impossible to find for so long. But a great show. And then it's like, this is the kind of thing that used to happen in show business where it's like, here are these 2 guys who were weirdo gonzo comedy elements of the weirdo gonzo late night show. They use that cachet to make a network sitcom. That sitcom flops. Then the studio said, I don't know, I guess you should make a movie now. Like they got promoted up the ranks. So then they write a script that is so esoteric that is, what if we made a parody of Ray Harryhausen adventure films starring me, the guy whose comedic angle is I play a brat. I play an entitled asshole.
I'm an overgrown child, yes.
Right. They write Cabin Boy, which is an effects-driven comedy for Tim Burton to direct. Tim Burton is going to do it. Then he quits because Ed Wood comes to him, but he still stays on as producer. Disney finances Cabin Boy, releases it to theaters. It becomes the biggest punching bag of its year. Letterman makes jokes about being in Cabin Boy for ages because he's so embarrassed by the movie.
Cabin
the
Boy
movie
made about half a Black Hat, to be clear.
Right. It made half a Black Hat. It's like a big stain on everyone's career. Chris Elliott has to like take his licks and do one shitty season of SNL post-movie, post-Get a Life. Yeah. And then Resnick is like, I guess I can't have this partnership with Chris Elliott. I guess Chris Elliott's going to become like a supporting actor and shit like Groundhog Day. I need to figure out how to make my own bones. And he writes 2 of the most reviled mainstream comedy scripts of the next 10 years. He does Death to Smoochie and Lucky Numbers. Like he does 1 season of Larry Sanders, but then he writes 2 scripts that both have the same reputation, were equally despised, big flops starring big movie stars. And he's just sort of like, I don't know, I guess people don't like what I do. And both of them are just the same mistakes, and I like them.
And both of them kind of posit as its main theory, watching folks kill each other for money is hilarious.
They're both that same thing.
It's just not funny.
It's the same thing. It's not funny.
I'm the only person who finds it funny.
I mean, I
cannot figure out why.
Gotta love giving more white men chances in Hollywood to fail upwards.
Hey, they did great work, though. This is the thing.
Yeah,
it's not
very
like
important.
we're talking about
But
dudes
Ange, at
who
least
fucking
in this case,
suck.
they got to drag down a white woman with them.
That's true.
A famous white Jewish woman was dragged down totally by this script. But by the way, it's worth mentioning, she does in the commentary speak very fondly of him in this script. It's not like, oh, I got this thing I didn't like. She's like, oh, it's a wonderful script. He was a great writer. I loved having him around. He was rewriting it like once we were up and running and he saw the look. Like she's very gracious about the writer on the one movie she didn't write.
And I love his book, and it's like a very sort of self-aware, self-effacing take of like, this is my career of being a guy working in show business where everyone hates everything I make. Like the public reacts violently. And this is the difference, Ange. I mean, yes, they were allowed to fail upwards in a way that non-white men
And write
don't.
a book about failing upward.
But
Well,
here's
no
the
one
difference.
bought his book.
The shit they
One
did.
person bought it sounds like.
No, fair enough.
I want to defend this. No, because I think there's so many guys who suck, who make crappy shit and are bad people and continue to fail upwards. I think the Chris Elliott, Adam Resnick thing defies logic because at every opportunity, they never should have been given another chance. Nothing they did was commercial. Nothing they did was liked. And what they did was actually funny and has aged well outside of this movie.
Well, just to say, the reason they got chances was that they worked on Letterman, which was the comedy lodestar of the 80s, was the coolest comedy show of the 80s.
Yeah.
So everyone coming out of Letterman was considered, like hot shit. Like that was the coolest comedy show in the 80s. And Letterman produced Cabin Boy, and he's in it. And he produced Get a Life.
He
right?
didn't
Like,
produce it, but he's in it. He produced
he's
Get
in
a
it.
Life.
Fine.
Yeah.
He gave his
I
blessing
thought
to it.
Worldwide
Stand-up
Hands
approval.
produced it.
Produced Cabin Boy? I don't think so. I can
guess-
double
I
check
guess
that.
not.
Cowboy rules. I
Yeah,
love
it's a
that
bad
movie. It's a good- yeah.
Hell yeah.
Put it
I
on
rented that.
Put it on the list of bench choice someday, maybe.
I would love to do Cabin Boy.
We should.
The other thing is, inexplicably, after Tim Burton quits, they let Adam Resnick direct Cabin Boy, aside
Yes.
from it being an insane first movie to make with all these effects. And then he's just like, well, people hated me and my movie. I can never direct a film ever again. And Lucky Numbers feels like something that he probably wanted to direct himself.
He probably should have directed both Lucky Numbers and Death
Yes.
to Smoochie.
So did anybody else read the Vulture interview with him only about Lucky Numbers?
Yes.
Where he just talks about how he he's from Harrisburg. He remembers this story. He wanted to
this
write
was
it.
a true story. Right.
And he grew up remembering this and wrote this, darker script called Numbers. And, just kind of watched as it became not what he wanted it to be.
Sure. I mean, because it gets worked into somewhat of a comedy. I mean, the reason this movie is an abject failure is that it doesn't know what it is. So the scenes where people die, you literally have to rewind the movie and be like, wait, I'm sorry, did I just watch a murder? Because it happened with the energy of someone fucking opening a door. Like nothing just happened and someone died. Like I need this to either be madcap or dark, but it's neither. This movie cannot pick a lane, and Travolta is emblematic of that. I don't know who is he even bothered by any of this? Like he never even seems confused or angry. Like he just walks into scenes with he's just at a 5 all the time. Like Kudrow, she's playing big, she's being weird, she's being funny.
She's reacting. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But Travolta, I just want someone to walk up to him and be like, you're part of a conspiracy that involves murder and theft. Like FYI, that's your character, what he's doing in the movie.
He hits that when he's on air and is finding out.
Yes, the one scene where he's freaking out on
can I read
TV.
Can I read what she says about that scene in the commentary?
Yes.
Obviously, we're jumping way ahead here.
But that's the best scene
In the commentary,
movie, right?
she says, she says, "This is one of the scenes that I knew if we could get it to work, it would be so funny."
Nailed it.
Just knowing that was a scene, and she speaks very highly of his performance in that moment. And I do want to set the table because her kind of introduction of what the deal was with how she saw this movie, as I already mentioned in relation to Die For, does kind of make sense. And also I do want to give a tiny bit of context for why we love Nora so much and why I wanted to do this. Because I don't want this to just be like, haha, this is her worst movie or a bad movie. It's more like she's really important and we really love her work, but not all of it. And that's very interesting when you love anybody. So if I may. So like I said, okay, so I have 4 encounters with her or her family roughly in my life. Number one of which is that Anna and I, when I Remember Nothing came out, went to see her read at Barnes & Noble, Union Square. It was really fun. She read it. She was hilarious. Autograph signing. We got this old paperback signed, and she said, "Oh my God, I haven't seen one of those in 30 years." We felt very honored. Number 3, at the Lincoln Center.
That was number 1.
Well, there are 4. Okay, these are in no order.
Okay.
Except one of them is the best that I'll save for last.
They're in no order, but you're saying the numbers that you wrote next to each of the
because I've
things.
gotten off track.
Great.
At the Lincoln Center Chaplain Gala of Rob Reiner that we went to in 2013.
Our modern day Charlie Chaplin.
Obviously. Because they only, you think that they give out the Chaplain Gala every year. They don't. They just get it once for Reiner.
One time they waited for one person to fill Chaplin's shoes, and it was
Future
Reiner.
blank check miniseries subject Rob Reiner.
Yeah.
And Billy Crystal and Meg Ryan came out together to, introduce some clips or something. And Anna lost her shit. Just seeing the two of them standing next to each other at a podium. Like, she just it was the most exciting thing she'd ever seen growing up on the West Coast, fetishizing the New York of When Harry Met Sally. And it was very exciting. All right. Number whatever. Number B. I'll do that like they do it in a bad comedy where you change from numbers to letters.
Unbelievable.
Her son, Jacob Bernstein, who made the documentary about her that was on HBO. When Schwartzman and I did the section for the New York Times, like a night out with, you know what the section is? It's like in the styles where it's just like a column of like someone who has something to promote and they spend a night with them. We did it with him. So we had like dinner with him, and then he like went to a bookstore with us. And then we like went uptown to try to get tickets to Inherent Vice. But we were like hanging out with him and picking his brain about whatever and talking about his mom because Jason had worked with her in Bewitched, teeing up my special gift to you guys. So it was fun to hang out with Jacob Bernstein. This is before he made the documentary. Super nice guy. Although Jason and I felt like we were boring the hell out of him at our dinner because we were like, oh, he wants to write an article. And what we're doing is like what we actually would be doing tonight, which is eating and going to a bookstore. And he knows this is not a good article. And then the final thing that was really exciting for big Nora Ephron fans like us is last year, I was being given some like award with a conversation at the Sun Valley, Idaho Film Festival. And the big guest of honor was Meg Ryan. So we were like, oh, that's cool. And in order to get to Sun Valley, you have to fly from JFK to Salt Lake City and then Salt Lake City to Sun Valley. And they flew Anna and I both business class. And in the seat in front of us from JFK to Sun Valley was Meg Ryan. Like the seat in front of me. And then also on the next leg of the flight, she was in front of us again for the 40-minute flight. And
so you guys were Billy Crystal behind her.
It really did feel... It felt like we were in a movie. But then on the TV screen on the back of the chair, one of the options was When Harry Met Sally. And Anna was just like, how fucking crazy is it that this movie, like we could watch this on a seat that her head is touching. How cool would that be? Which we
could smell her hair.
Which we did not do.
Well, wait a second.
You could. I'm not saying you should. I advise against it. It was an option. It was just an option.
But anyway,
cut off a little piece of hair.
Those are the 4 kind of contextual senses of just how exciting it is to sort of think about her work and her legacy and her personality and her, the people she's worked with, the iconic collaborators and her family of intellectuals and writers and her creative family. It's all very interesting. So I didn't want to watch Lucky Numbers because I thought it would be shitty. I wanted to watch it because it's like the last piece of the puzzle.
See, I had the opposite thing, which I was just like, I am resigned to thinking this movie is shitty, and then put it on, and 30 minutes, and I was like, oh, fuck, right? I'm the only person who finds movies about dumb criminals dying to be entertaining. I'm the only one.
I like plenty of movies about dumb criminals dying.
Name
these
one,
types
David.
of cartoonish... Name one.
Fargo?
That's the one. You don't get that. Everyone gets that one.
Pick one off
That's
of
the
my
mulligan.
list, David. Do you prefer clay
the
pigeons to Gross Point Blank?
Fucking, I don't know, like the Lavender Hill Mob. Like what? I refuse.
Colin
to,
Farrell's right there, David.
Yeah, Colin Farrell, great dumb criminal. What?
Wait a second, David. Why would you pick an Ealing Brother comedy?
No, it's just Ealing Studios. They're not brothers.
Well, how would you know that?
God damn it.
I know
How
that
would
'cause
you know
I grew up in England, and I grew up in London, in fact, where Ealing Studios was, although I grew up in North London, not West London.
And now I'm realizing that once again, I think for the 5th week in a row, I have fucked up what is supposed to be.
You fucked up the bit!
After nailing it the first time, I have proceeded to fuck it up in every episode since then.
Is the new bit that you just can't do the bit?
I don't know what the
He
bit
forgot
is.
that the bit this time is supposed to be that he knows that I grew up in London. But what he doesn't know is that before I moved to London, I lived in the Upper West Side.
Oh, that's a good one. That's
What?
That's good. That's good.
Whoa.
That's right. It's a good bit, and I fucked it up.
Oh my
the
God.
new bit is Zoom really does start to rot away at your brain.
Oh,
That's
100%.
the new bit. Yeah.
100%.
Yes. Going into month 4 of my entire life being Zoom, I barely know how to speak to people anymore.
Wow, boy, oh boy. But anyway, yes, I think you just leapt at the fact that I said an Ealing comedy. But I think of Ealing
did.
comedies when I think of
It's a
movies
dog
about
whistle
inept
for me.
criminals.
Yes.
Hey, should we talk about the plot?
Yeah.
Yes.
No.
This is what I wanted to
An
say.
hour 40 in.
Ew.
This is what I wanted to say. And I was going to say this to center everything back on to talk about the plot of the movie. The fundamental thing this movie asks you to accept, the buy-in to the premise of the movie is this Travolta guy is so fucking charming. This guy is so beloved in his community. He's so innately charismatic and good at everything he does that he's not just the most beloved weatherman I have ever seen, but he's been able to spin that off into multiple businesses, like PSAs. He has his own roped off velvet booth at Denny's, and they have an omelet named after him. And he is so off-putting from the first moment he's on screen.
The jokes in this movie are so bad.
There's some I like.
There's an omelet named after me here. Did I tell you about this? For the sake of expediency, let's go with yes. Like, this is the worst kind of writing.
I'm going to pull up some jokes I like.
Here's the way to set up lucky numbers. Like, okay, so in the commentary, she talks a lot. She's like, this is one of these movies. This is a story about these kinds of people that I'm fascinated by. These people who are like television personalities who in another era would have been like local shoe salesmen or businessmen. And now they're kind of famous. And what we've seen in our culture is a huge, I'm not quoting for, specifically, but she's like, what we've seen is a huge rise in people like this who kind of seem like they're famous, but they're not, but they think that they're important. And they all have these weird schemes of things like owning a dealership. And she was really interested in this corrosive sense of modern entertainment and media and celebrity. Again, To Die For does this perfectly 5 years earlier. But that is what she's
a good version.
That is what she is thinking about with this character. And she really seems to find that to be incredibly compelling.
That's so dated. Like local TV celebs are more of a thing in like the 80s when this scandal happened.
2000.
And this is 2000. There's a fucking internet.
It absolutely should have been a period film.
It is. It says 1988
Yes.
in the beginning of the movie.
Does it?
Yes, it says Harrisburg 1988.
How did I
you're
completely
right,
miss
you're right.
that?
It
Everything
totally
about
does.
this movie feels like it's set in the year 2000.
And a lot of what she talks about is she's like, you go to Harrisburg, it does not look like the present, but we wanted it to be very timeless.
Sure, Harrisburg, not the sexiest city in the world. No offense to it.
I must say, as a Pennsylvania resident by birth, seeing this kind of drab Pennsylvania 80s, I mean, the aesthetics of this movie I love. I live in it and I love it. I actually loved all the locations, the kind of dark griminess of it. Took me
It's
back.
your bicentennial man.
Yes, it's my Bicentennial Man, if you will. I want to live in it. Except unlike Bicentennial Man, I actually watched this movie.
I can't get over thinking for just 1 second that Ben wanted to live in Bicentennial, man.
That's what was so confusing to me about it.
It's so, I know. It's just great.
It is now the 4th time we've discussed it on
It's so
mic
funny.
and off mic since the Zoom started, and it's still funny to me.
Here's her kind of introductory statement on the commentary. I don't think of this as a movie about crime as much as I think of it as a movie about one of those human weaknesses we all have. I actually think it's one of those things that's almost Shakespearean, which is a ludicrous thing to say about a movie like this. But the temptation to do that thing, to make a huge amount of money. If you say to me, I don't understand this, then you're lying. Everybody's got it. And then later she
Right.
says, I was influenced by things like Fortune Cookie or even Double Indemnity, that thing Billy Wilder would do where there isn't somebody in the movie who isn't guilty of something or other. And she talks about Double Indemnity a lot in the commentary.
Well, Double Indemnity is one of the most famous pieces of like film noir of all time.
Here's an incredible, this is the last thing I have from the commentary, is an amazing Nora Ephron line. Between the sweater and Lisa's performance, we were going for a little teeny taste of Barbara Stanwyck in Double Indemnity, with a woman with absolutely no remorse at all and a really great sweater.
Love it. Love it.
She's got a good sweater.
I love Lisa.
Yes.
in
But
this.
anyway, that seems like how she saw this movie.
Can I ask, before we go into the plot, Alex, do you think this much when you do, I assume you've done director's commentary, do you think this much about the like stuff you add on to your movies? And do you imagine that someday someone's going to like record in front of a TV?
It's a great question. I've
good
only
question.
done two of my own movies. And I
Which
only,
ones?
for Philip and Her Smell. And I only viewed, like, to me, it's only like, I love these when I was younger, and I just want this to be the thing that, like, the 2% of people that will listen to this will be like, oh, that does tell me the thing I wanted to learn about how a thing gets made.
Time well used. I got what I wanted.
Because it's always like, I'm just going to throw this on and see what it is. And the ones that are great, you're just like, I can't stop listening to this. This is just like nuggets of gold left and right. How they did this shot, what this location was, the cast. And like, that is
Crafty, like
The what?
all of it. Crafty.
Crafty.
All
yeah,
of
all
it.
the
Ben
important
only
meals.
wants to hear about
Yeah, I do
Crafty.
try to make, I mean, but you know, no one ever tells me they listen to them. So I don't know.
I mean, I always do. I feel like Blank Check is a podcast where the Venn diagram of people who listen to our show and people who listen to commentaries is a perfect circle.
Right.
Like that's the exact audience of people who listen to commentaries. People who are like, I need more context. I need to understand how and why these decisions were made.
Part of the thing with the commentary is that like Lucky Numbers is not on Blu-ray.
And probably will never be.
If after the previous 90 minutes you're thinking I need to get that, don't go searching for it. It's not there. But like
It's going straight to 4K Steelbook.
it's just interesting to me that like there's an SD DVD of this movie that has 100 minutes of one of the most famous wits of American culture. And like,
Right.
unless you buy this SD DVD, that content of Nora Ephron is lost.
So that's why you held an old cell phone up to a TV so it could be captured for all posterity and submitted to the National Registry.
Right. Now we can distribute that.
Yeah, maybe we should just make that our bonus episode.
Let's just
Library
drop
of
that on the
Congress.
Patreon. I'm sure no one will get mad at us.
It's a good
Yeah, it's
freebie.
definitely not copyright infringement. It's great.
Who's actually going to pursue that? Who's actually going to go, hey, sorry?
That's the question. Maybe someone will. Maybe there's someone in some dusty office who's like, I'm in charge of all DVD commentaries 2000 to 2005, and I'm just surfing the internet waiting for one to drop.
So that's the ultimate scam, is us posting that.
Sir, we've identified a Patreon feed. It looks like it's a special bonus drop.
Yes, Griffin's announcement coming over the speaker at the FBI headquarters in Quantico. And there's someone down there
Yes.
waiting for the new Patreon drop, and they're like, sir, we've got one. Because I did, speaking of copyright, I asked Ben if I could play music because I wanted to play Get Lucky by Daft Punk on the episode.
Good
He
joke.
said no, so I just texted it to you guys.
Yes. And I replied to you
Appreciate it.
with the theme song from CBS's Numbers.
Yes. David.
Yeah.
People have always asked me, how do you do the world's most perfect, concise ad reads?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And
of
never
course.
before have I revealed my secrets.
No, I mean, that's proprietary. You got to keep that close to the chest.
Until now.
Oh, wow.
David, welcome to my ad read masterclass.
Oh, of course. So you're part of that great service that, you know, puts you in touch with legendary purveyors of art and culture and music and sports and cooking and all kinds of stuff like that. And you do these classes online.
Masters of the craft you're talking about. I mean,
Right.
the master classes like learning from Spike Lee or Martin Scorsese how to improve your understanding of filmmaking, you
Right.
know?
Yeah.
No, I'm not part of that service, but this is sort of my audition because they are sponsoring this episode, and I would love for them to give me a masterclass to explain how to do ad reads.
So you're not going to be like David Lynch or Jodie Foster, or Werner Herzog, Mira Nair. I'm just some of the people in the film and TV section of Masterclass.
No, I mean, and some of these people you're listing, they've never done anything like this before.
Right.
You know?
Right.
This is the first time they're opening up their book of secrets, to steal a phrase from National Treasure 2. I would like to join such luminaries. I think of myself.
They have 75 different instructors on all kinds of categories.
Right. Steve Martin teaching you how to do comedy.
Wow, really? Jeez.
Yeah, right? I mean, they go deep. Bobby Brown, makeup and beauty. Gabriela Camara, Mexican cooking. Chris Voss, art of negotiation. And maybe coming soon, Griffin Newman, art of ad reads.
Well, yeah, I hope you get added. I mean, maybe you're not going to teach how to sous vide and, cook seafood like Thomas Keller does, but you can give us a good ad read lesson. And it'll probably it'll be like 36 classes, right? So it'll be about the length of an ad read.
Absolutely. Yes, exactly. I mean, it takes many parts to break down the art of an ad read. But you watch like the Ron Howard one, he has actors. You get to watch him direct a scene in real time. He shows you like piece by piece how he goes about working with the actors, but also how he goes about like approaching coverage for a scene. He talks through his decision-making about why he picks certain shots on the day in order to give himself editing options. You learn big things, David, like how to do 30 Looney Tune impressions in one ad read.
Wow. Yeah, of course. How did you
that would be for my master class. That would be for mine, yes.
Okay, oh, right. So you would introduce us to characters like Octagon, Woody, all the favorites. Marge
Rhombus,
Simpson.
my friend. Rhombus,
right.
my
Rhombus,
friend.
not Octagon. Sorry. Right, Ben played the Octagon.
Ben played Octagon, so he has to save something for his master class.
Anyway, but no, it's $180 a year for an all-access pass. They have hundreds of video lessons. You can watch them on anything, your phone, your desktop, your Apple TV, anything like that. It's got a 30-day guarantee, so you have a money-back guarantee on the all-access pass if you're not into it. And
you got flexibility. You could watch it on your Apple TV, then you got to go do something, then you pick it up on your computer, then you finish it on your tablet. And the individual lessons are 10 to 15 minutes in length approximately. So it's not a quick bite. It's a good snack.
I highly recommend you check it out. You can get unlimited access to every masterclass, and as a Blank Check listener, you get 15% off the annual all access pass. Go to masterclass.com/check. That's masterclass.com/check for 15% off of Masterclass.
So the basic step of this movie is that John Travolta is this very successful, very beloved local celebrity who also is deeply in debt. Everyone thinks he's really successful, but he has somehow blown all of his money. Tim Roth calls out, it's weird. You're not married. You don't have expensive hobbies. You don't drink. You don't do drugs. How did you lose all your money? And Travolta goes like, I don't know. It just disappears, which I expected. Oh, there's going to be some late reveal of some weird reason why he lost all his money. Some weird habit he has or some weird mistake he made. No, it never comes up.
Sunny.
The guy
it's just the weather's warm.
He's just stupid is the reasoning I got.
He did not sell his pumpkin futures in October.
He didn't. He's got a bad sense of the climate for a weatherman.
Right. I guess that's the joke, right?
Right. Lisa Kudrow plays the woman who pulls out the ping pong balls on the weekly lotto drawing. They both work at the same station.
Which
they
for people who are
together.
Younger than us used to be a job.
Used to be a series of jobs, a whole industry.
There was a British, because we've already done the fucking bit, game show called Talking Telephone Numbers, where two people literally hosting the show were just like, we're just going to call telephone numbers that we pick out of a lottery, and anyone who picks up gets money. Like, that was the whole premise of the show. So
how did you know that? Did you like?
Wait a second. No, Alex. No. This makes sense because you don't realize David grew up in England and he lived there his entire life. He lived there from the time he was born until his mid-20s, and then he moved to New York. But that was the first time that David had ever stepped foot in New York, of course, was in his 20s.
He's just shuffling so angrily in his window there. What is it? Yeah.
Steam is coming out of his teeth.
So Russ needs money.
Russ
needs money. I was going to say
needs money.
They're having an affair. I'm trying to
by the way,
get the plot out as quickly as possible.
One thing she does do in the commentary is she says very specifically, she goes, for people listening to this who care about screenplays, this is the end of Act 1. And then later she goes, and for those people who still care, this is the end of Act 2. She's like very methodical about the idea of structure and writing and comedy performances.
Well, she also knew that the Lucky Numbers commentary was going to be used as a teaching tool.
Right.
So Lisa Kudrow, Travolta are having an affair, but also Lisa Kudrow and Ed O'Neill, who is their boss, are having an affair.
Now, Ed O'Neill, I mean, David, we committed about 30 minutes to each of these supporting characters.
Yeah, it's not going to happen. I'm sorry. I have to put in all the Ed O'Neill time. That's out.
Okay, let me just say quickly about Ed O'Neill. While watching him, I was like, is Ed O'Neill dead? How come I haven't seen him in anything in a long time?
He's on Modern Family.
Modern
He's
Family.
made
Guess I didn't know that.
billions.
Yeah, I guess I forgot that he'd been on that show for 12 years, but I thought he was one
He
of those
got like
people.
9 consecutive Emmy nominations.
Yeah, he's like the king of the sitcom. He's not dead at all. He's stronger than ever.
Truly one of the most highly paid men on television over the last decade.
She speaks very highly of him and calls him an actor of Shakespearean qualities.
I love him. I'm a huge Ed O'Neill.
He feels
fan,
like he
right?
feels like
Who
he
doesn't
feels
love
like a
Ed
Ben guy, and Married with Children feels like a Ben show.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Okay, let me just do a quick 20 minutes on Ed O'Neill. So Ed O'Neill
Absolutely
is born
not.
in
No, absolutely not. The only
Colin
actor
Mockery?
we will be doing. Well, there's 3 actors we need to do a fair amount.
Give me some credit. I'm trying to speed round the
Look,
plot.
I'll be
here.
honest. I like to write down a lot of notes when I'm watching the movies for these. I did not get a lot of notes on this one. There's not a lot to write down during this movie. This plot is very quick and very dumb. And
That's why I'm trying to just set it up as quickly as possible for people who haven't seen it, because not everyone who listens to the show might take an hour and 40 minutes out of their life to watch Lucky Numbers.
We're just to point out we're about an hour and 40 minutes into the episode.
well, like 10
This is time I'd rather
of
spend.
that at the beginning was kind of a mistake.
Having the what at the beginning?
You know, there was a little bit of a hiccup at the beginning, right? I don't know how accurate that clock is.
Oh, that's true.
Look,
And we should
here's
keep
what I
this
have
in
written
double.
down. Jumping ahead. At 24 minutes, Tim Roth and John Travolta, reuniting for the first time since Pulp Fiction, decide to rig the lottery. 24
Right,
minutes
that's
into
the big
movie.
thing. Right, because originally
money.
Travolta's get-rich-quick scheme is Tim Roth, his best friend who owns a strip club and also is the chef.
And is British.
And he's British. His
and who
name's
she
Giggs.
calls in the commentary the devil.
Yes. He's trying to teach John Travolta how to fleece his way out of debt. So he suggests that John Travolta hires thugs to rob his own snowmobile dealership.
Which he envisions.
Insurance fraud.
A little classic
Right, yeah.
insurance fraud, which
Insurance
he envisions as a sort of Kraftwerk music video of Volvo-driven efficiency of men in black leather and lasers, and the whole production. And
Yes.
his imagination is very classy.
And his happy ending, how he comes out of it with all this money and new
It's
shine
very
and all
much
of that.
like a joke in Shaun of the Dead.
But they hire Michael Rappaport, who's a loose cannon, and also Travolta's employee at the dealership has used his keys that night to
But what
get
is
laid on the
Michael
couch.
Rappaport's character's name?
It's
Doug?
Dale
His name
the
is
Thug.
Dale.
Dale the
Dale.
what?
Dale the
The
Thug.
Dale the Thug. His name is Dale the Thug. Dale T. Thug.
This
Now
is when Michael Rappaport is doing. I mean, this is my favorite stat, and this is why I needed to bring him up.
Okay.
He's credited as being in 8 films in the year 2000. Just
What?
in the year 2000.
Let's hear 'em.
8 films. The films are Next Friday. He plays a mailman. The sequel to Friday. Woody Allen's Small Time Crooks. He's in that because he's in a ton of
smallest
Woody
of the
Allen
crooks.
movies.
I believe
Yes.
he wears his digging helmet backwards in the trailer because he says it looks cooler with the light facing the other way.
Right. I mean, it's just the years Rappaport got playing dummies.
Yes.
Like, anyway. He's in the Arnold Schwarzenegger film, The Sixth
End of days.
Day.
Oh, the 6th day, right.
That The days weren't over yet. He's in
Yeah.
Men of Honor, the Oscar-y Robert Downey
Jeez.
Jr., Cuba Gooding Jr. Navy movie. Another auteur he worked with many times. He's in Bamboozled, Spike Lee's Bamboozled.
Yes.
Incredible
He's in.
performance.
Yeah.
Great. He's
Great
amazing.
performance,
in that.
great movie.
He's in a John Leguizamo vehicle I've never heard of called King of the Jungle. He's
Never
in
heard.
a Swedish heist comedy film called Chain of Fools, and he is in lucky numbers. That is right. 8. How many people are in 8 movies in a
Is
year?
he on Boston? What's this Boston show he's on at this time? Boston.
He's on
Public?
Boston
All of them.
Public next year.
Next year. He's on all Boston.
He's on all the Boston shows.
Until Bill Burr comes for his crown, he is on all the Boston shows and playing all
Yeah.
the Boston thugs.
He's a New York guy, but yes.
Is 2000 an anomalous year for him, or is he in like 6 in 99
The dude
and
works
6
a
in
lot. I don't think
2001?
he says no.
His average is more like 4 a year, and then 2000, for some reason, it was an avalanche. I don't
Sure
know
am.
why.
She says on the commentary that he ad-libbed all of the baseball stuff, and he came in loaded with baseball facts and ideas, just ready to spew.
Yeah.
And by the way, she also says that Maria Bamford, who we skipped over, Maria Bamford is the local waitress at the Denny's. Where
We didn't skip over her. We barely got
trying
into
to
anything.
outline the
She
plot.
has the best line in the movie, in my
we
opinion.
have
She's
moved
so good in
past
this movie.
the initial scene where he's at his Denny's booth, so we have gone past it.
She
Yeah, but
comes up
she's
many
in multiple
times.
parts of the movie.
She
Good
sandwiches
God.
the movie.
Yes. But
Yeah.
she
Can I say-
apparently also did a lot of ad-libbing, and to me it's like I didn't know who she was at 2000. It's kind of weird
No,
to see her
this
in the
was
movie.
this was an early time to pick Maria Bamford, to have her on your radar.
as like your
which you
classic,
gotta give Nora
like
Ephron
kind of
props
dim
for.
small town waitress.
Yeah, she's got like a good supporting role.
She's so funny.
I just want to point out, of the 8 movies he did in 2000, Michael Rappaport did 3 inept criminal comedies. 3 out of 8.
Small-time crooks.
He's a great scumbum
Yes.
He's kind of like a king of the ginger scumbums.
for sure.
But the main sort of like gimmick to this character is he is a thug who also loves sports memorabilia
Great blender.
and uses it's a good blender. He uses his very expensive sports memorabilia to commit the acts of robbery, except it's not really a blender because it kind of almost is a plot detail that he gets himself in danger because he won't leave his bat behind.
It's true. He does love his bat.
He loves his bat because it's an original
Well, this goes south.
game used.
This
yes.
and they get pinched, and now he wants $10,000 extra from Travolta for his pain and suffering.
Because his weird employee gets like, he's trying to like mac it
His
to some
employee
girl.
is someone that Anna felt should have been played by Steve Zahn.
Absolutely. I know this is stupid. I do genuinely find funny just the larger joke of he keeps on accumulating more debt.
Yeah.
That everything he does as a get-rich-quick scheme somehow ends with him owing someone else more
That
money.
is
I
funny.
like that. I think that's funny.
It's a funny running gag for someone who's not an inept criminal, but an inept person who's in debt.
yes, I like that.
It's kind of like how we picture Nicolas Cage is in real life.
Yes,
Like,
yes, it's
there's-
very Nicolas Cage.
Right.
He
Yes.
agrees to do
To
a
bring him
movie
up
to
again.
get out of debt, but the movie shoots somewhere where he loses all of his money gambling.
Right.
Lots of things in this movie, on paper could be funny. Like it's a reasonable premise. Like let's adapt this real life scandal.
Right.
Yeah, brainless crooks. They're Lisa Kudrow is kind of like all brass, no smarts. I don't know. You know what I mean? Like it all makes sense. It's just that I don't know.
The tone is that
Travolta's
it
the
never
problem.
his the tone. The tone that she's if
No,
if
the
you
tone
is
take her
not.
at her word
Yeah.
and she's going for double indemnity, you need just like such a perfect blend of like weirdly funny lines but not funny characters, just in way over their heads in a way that the tone is just like tense because the other shoe's going to drop, and it's never tense.
A movie I like that falls into this sort of category is The Ice Harvest, the Harold Ramis
another
movie,
one.
That's a good one.
which is a lot closer to feeling like a genuine noir. He's not just saying, oh, it's like a noir movie. That film has more atmosphere, more tension. It's more dramatic. It's slower. It's more darkly lit. This zone of like, we're making a very dark comedy with murder and crime that also has the energy of a Looney Tunes cartoon. audiences always vomit at.
And she says on the Charlie Rose interview, she's like, I wanted to do stuff I've never shot before. I've never shot someone throwing a body off of a bridge before, which is weird because I thought I remembered that happening in Sleepless in Seattle. But
also,
they're right on the water.
shot she pulls off
exactly.
that I really like is the truck flipping.
that is funny.
That shot's
Yeah.
amazing.
That is
funny.
the funniest
That's good.
joke or shot in the movie.
Chris Nolan, Nora Ephron, great truck flips.
Yes.
Can we call out
Cinema's
that
finest
Mixed
truck
Nuts?
flippers.
50% of Mixed Nuts is characters moving around a dead body.
This is
That
true.
movie
This
is
true.
Do they
mostly
throw it off
body.
a bridge?
They don't throw it off a bridge. They throw it up into the air. They put it in a
Yeah.
Christmas tree. They throw it
definitely
downstairs.
throw it.
It's also worth
Yeah,
mentioning.
throw it a lot.
I wrote down that this movie is vaguely Christmassy in that it starts in what they say is the lead up to the Christmas season.
She loves
Yeah,
Christmas.
it's got
Oh, yeah.
snow.
Much like myself, a Jew who loves Christmas so much. Many of her movies involve Christmas.
Yes.
But
Yes.
then like you lose that, and I didn't have any idea. Has Christmas happened? There hasn't really been like. In the commentary, she's like, now, of course, it's January by now. And I feel like the lotto drawing was the week after Christmas. And I was like,
Yeah.
oh, yeah, sure. Maybe.
Could not track that outside of the one time Lisa Kudrow wears a Santa hat.
But you know what else happens around this point in the movie that we do need to talk about is at minute 30, a non-actor, a cross-vocational performer
Here we
enters
go.
into the film asthmatic, a little bit dim, with a crush on his cousin.
And a real aficionado of masturbation.
And that is $100 million grossing documentary filmmaker,
Academy Award Palm d'Or winner.
Michael Moore.
All true. This is all
Big
true.
Mike.
This is
In a,
this is his only
a 3-scene performance.
Yes.
and his only performance. Correct.
His
Like,
only
the
acting
time
role
he's
ever.
not playing himself.
Yes, correct. The
I-
only time
I
he's
believe
ever
I saw that he was
acted
in
in a scripted
EdTV the year
As
He
before.
plays
himself.
himself.
He does. That's
As
not
he
what it
plays
says on
himself.
IMDb. So you guys should.
I believe he plays himself in that.
He play okay, all right. Technically, he plays
boy.
a talking head
Okay.
on a TV panel. I guess he's never identified.
I do
but it's
want to
himself.
say, watching this, all we could think was they must have just been friends. Like, what
Yes.
on earth could the explanation for this be?
It has to
In
be.
the commentary, she says, you know, our casting director had this great idea where she just said,
What?
what about Michael Moore? And I knew him from New York. I loved his films, and he moderates lots of Q&As and panels in New York. And I thought he was so funny. He came in and read for 4 characters. He was great as all of them. And then we put him in this role.
That is so bizarre, especially because this film is like well cast. You have a lot of good actors in it.
Right,
You
like
have a lot of
Roth,
people.
Ed
Right.
O'Neill,
But then
Bill Pullman,
people like
right.
Bamford who were like at the beginning of their career
Right.
to
Caroline
suddenly go
Aaron,
like,
of course.
let's pull someone who has no acting aspirations whatsoever, and seemingly this one performance and the response to it scared him off of ever even trying ever
But
again.
this also, like, this is not that far removed. I mean, it's a couple years, but like, everyone forgets Michael Moore made a fiction movie as his follow-up to Roger and Me.
Yeah, Canadian Bacon.
Canadian Bacon. Like, he did not lock in on being Michael Moore. I mean, until
No,
like,
people thought he might be a studio comedy guy.
until like,
Yeah.
and I also was wondering, like, you know, because Columbine obviously really refocused his energies as a documentary filmmaker, and that was 99.
Yes.
Kind of wonder,
No, that's 2002.
Columbine is right after The Matrix came out. The event of
You're talking
Columbine.
the event. You're talking the event of Columbine.
Bowling for Columbine.
Yes. No, I'm saying
talking about
bowling,
the movie.
but I'm
Yeah,
saying
okay.
the event of Columbine clearly refocused his perspective on how to
Yes.
make documentaries and think about American issues.
Sure.
I'm wondering if
But
that was
people
on his
forget-
mind at this time when he was shooting Lucky
People
Numbers.
forget that, right? Because for most of the '90s, he was doing TV,
Yes. Awful Truth
Yeah, he
and
did.
things like
He
that.
did all his right. Exactly.
right?
So
he
he's
was doing mosh pits with Alan Keyes or whoever. Right.
Who
Like,
could
you know,
forget?
It was
Yes.
yeah.
So he's in this movie, and there's something wrong
He
with
loves
him.
masturbating. He's advising it to
there's
people
something
all the time.
A little,
Yeah.
a little off about him.
Yes, they use language that I will not repeat.
But he seems like he's, you know, what people might now call on the spectrum, at the time called other things, and
They call him a lot of names. Yeah.
and it's a bizarre performance. And he asks John Travolta if he masturbates, if he likes it.
And his whole belief is he's a deeply religious man. He says that if the money he's making, he would put half towards the church, half to open an adult bookstore. He believes that God wants us to masturbate. That's this character's raison d'etre, is to preach the good word of masturbation to everyone he meets within 2 minutes. of speaking to them.
And he's there because he's the stoolie that they need to buy the ticket and redeem it.
Yes.
Because they're going to need someone that they can't be traced to.
We haven't even established that the premise of the movie is
They rigged
they're
the
injecting
lottery.
the lotto balls with paint so that they're weighed down, so only the numbers they want come up so that they can win all the money and get themselves out of this
Which is
hole.
apparently exactly how the real life thing happened.
But otherwise, this movie is kind of made out of whole cloth. It's just based off of people who work at a local TV station rigging the lotto in this way. All the
Right,
other
it's-
incidents are fictional.
Right. That's the only thing that's
Except
real.
the
That's
one
not
thing
like-
that she flags, I'm glad I listened to the commentary. I feel like I'm referring to it a lot. She does say that when
sorry, Alex, did you listen to the commentary for this?
I did, yeah, and I made a file of it on my phone.
The commentary for Lucky Numbers?
But
For this movie, you're saying
look,
this
I
commentary.
gotta say, it was not time wasted because it's paying off a lot.
Yes.
The thing where the guy comes to Tim Roth and says all these other people connected to you hit the numbers, that's how the real people got caught.
Oh, interesting.
Is that like a pocket of people all connected to each other won because someone had talked and given out some of the numbers.
And it's that thing where all the other people can be traced back to Tim Roth. None of them got all the numbers correct so that they could still get the main bounty. But he clearly leaked just put 3 of these numbers down to a bunch of people to get smaller payouts.
I guess so. Anyway, Michael Moore dies on the ground, gasping for breath, while Lisa
wants
Kudrow
his
tries
puffer.
to find his... I hate the term puffer. It's an inhaler. This is like a sub-hoagie thing. Like, it's an inhaler. It's not a puffer. And Travolta calls it an inhaler.
Yes, well, there's enough mist in this little puffy to save 10 masturbators.
There he is.
Yeah.
So he dies on the ground while she's singing the theme song to Happy Days in just like a peak shitty black comedy scene.
It is not good. I will fully concede.
It has a blow-up doll in it for some reason.
It's a huge problem scene, I think, especially because that's when the movie is turning from like madcap, silly black comedy to like, oh boy, the stakes are higher now. People are dying. Like this is getting out of control. But the tone of the movie doesn't really feel like it acknowledges that.
No,
No.
it feels like the scene is just going like, oh, look at how cruel she is. She's letting him suffer and have a hard time breathing because the way in which he dies is so casual. It takes
Right.
5 minutes to realize that he is actually dead.
No, as it was happening, I kept waiting for her to realize like that her like cruel joke like went too far, and it turns out she's just a cop. So
I like your cat's cameo there.
yeah, good time.
Mine all must be asleep. But anyway, it's kind of like disgusting and not funny at all. And then she says the clams line that made Nora want to make this movie for whatever reason.
Worth it.
And then like what's happening at this point? It's just like now
It's a bunch of stuff. It's
now
like
they just
O'Neill
need to find
figures it
someone to
out.
cash in the ticket and like
right.
the noose is tightening on Roth and
Everything's getting worse. It's this idea
Right.
of like, okay, so Schiff, which I do think that's a very good scene. Schiff interrogates Roth, and then Roth realizes Schiff is on, so we have to get rid of him. So then they owe more money to the thugs, in addition of to
Rappaport is
disposing
now
the body.
out of jail.
Right.
He's now coming back around to Travolta.
Travolta had to pay for his bail, but now Rappaport wants additional money for taking care of the book.
Travolta has had to move at this point from his big
Yes.
mansion to a kind
Sold
of
his Jaguar.
townhouse.
Guys, you both just sound like madmen. It's just babbling. That's
These
what
are
this
real
is.
things that happen in the movie.
I'll give you one little bit of trivia is that location of his new house is in Sacramento, where they shot part of the movie.
Now that is the kind of scintillating fact that
Thank
you
you,
can
Nora.
only learn if you listen to the DVD commentary for Lucky Numbers.
We have not talked about my favorite thread of the movie, which is about halfway through when the bodies are piling up, the incidents are piling up, Travolta can't downsize his life any further. We cut to a police precinct where Bill Pullman sits in a chair.
That is 59 minutes into this movie.
insane.
Well, that's
this
where
movie
we're at.
is an hour
Well,
and 40 minutes
before
long.
then, I
Yes.
have one. Before we enter Pullman, Ben, I know in the When Harry Met Sally episode, you were kind of getting excited about how good the comedy buttons are in that movie, and
Mm-hmm.
that's correct. They're perfect. Here's a button in Lucky Numbers. The end of the scene is almost over. Here's the button. John Travolta, want to have sex? Lisa Kudrow, yeah. That's it. That's
perfect.
the
That's a
button.
good
That's
joke.
how the scene
Good
ends.
joke.
You remember that scene?
Good joke.
I do, and I thought that was a good joke because they start planning, and then it's like
Yes.
before they actually get to the meat of the plan, they're like, "You want to have sex? Yeah, that was effective."
Okay.
It won comedy points. That
I wanted
button.
to run that button by you because to me, I was just like, this isn't writing. I don't really know.
I took that button and I sewed it on my jacket proudly.
If you tried to attach anything with that button, you would fail.
Yeah.
Sorry, that button analogy.
It wasn't
didn't really
heightened
work.
enough, but it's still. I thought it was an okay joke.
Also, they have no chemistry. Like even if they have sex in the movie.
And it's also supposed to be set up that like the sex she has with Ed O'Neill sucks, but the sex she has with Travolta is electric. He's the good sex.
She seems bored in both cases, and he seems bored. Everyone seems bored.
Can we talk about the Pullman thread?
In order to set that up, we need to mention that this is, I haven't rewatched them as recently as you guys have. The only Nora Ephron movie that features a strip club as a primary location.
So many times.
It's one of the hangouts, and I believe the only Nora Ephron movie to make jokes of ping pong balls ostensibly flying out of women's bodies in that strip club.
I'm sorry, that's a big blanket statement. Let me cross-reference.
Yeah, think about that.
Yes, remember
so
that's
many
also
movies.
in Sleepless in Seattle.
It is. Oh, because I thought that was in Julia and Julia, but it's in Sleepless in Seattle.
Yeah.
I mean, Julia Child definitely went to strip clubs like that all the time. I'm not sure if it made the movie.
I have to check the tapes. I have to check the tapes on that one,
They're in the
Alex.
deleted scenes.
All right, we'll find out, and I'll check back. 59 minutes into an hour and 40-minute movie, Bill Pullman enters with some scheme about faking a back injury to get out of police duty.
Yeah, he's a detective who doesn't want to do any detecting.
I think Bill Pullman is what this movie should be, both in his performance and I
he's
think
very
Nora
funny.
has the right handle on this character.
Yes. You've also got Daryl Mitchell.
Who's a great foil.
I love Daryl Mitchell, and I think this might be the last movie he was in before he was paralyzed.
It's the Country
right?
Bears. It's the Country Bears.
Oh, really?
I know that. I know that
have not
fact because
seen
it's
the Country
tragic.
Bears.
How did he get paralyzed?
Motorcycle
I think he
accident.
was in an accident, and he, I know him as mostly from Galaxy Quest, obviously, and 10 Things I Hate About You, right? Like he was like
Home fries.
It's such a great like sort of funny guy off the bench, like do 3 big scenes and like he's in
He
sitcoms
rules.
and stuff.
Yeah.
But then he had that whole. He's now like in a wheelchair, and I think he's on NCIS New Orleans like for like
he
6
still works.
seasons running now. Like
He was on multiple seasons of Ed. He was on the Michael Strahan Fox sitcom Brothers. Like he still works
one
a
of
lot,
the
but
most
now-
offensive.
Yeah.
The Brothers was absolutely insane. It was just Michael Strahan making fun of him for being in a wheelchair, and him making fun of Michael Strahan for having a gap in his teeth. You should watch the pilot. It's one of the
That's
craziest things I've ever seen. I have no idea how it was on Fox.
Should be in Anja's mountain of pilots that are not allowed out.
Scattered amongst the gems.
I do like that because this does not happen often. Daryl Mitchell is like not a big star, but he's like working in a lot of good projects. He's like a good scene stealer, as you said, right? Then he gets in this really tragic accident, and people started writing roles for him. Like most of the roles he's done since then, even like Brothers and his role on Ed, people were like, here's this great actor. He's now in a wheelchair. Let's write a role that suits his personality and like incorporates the fact that he's paraplegic. I
He's an
feel like
inside
very
man.
often if someone has an accident like that, Hollywood's just like, I don't know what to do with you.
It was like Christopher
You
Reeve
know?
being in the remake of Rear Window.
Right. But with Daryl Mitchell, it's been done effectively and he's had a nice career.
So you want to talk about Bill Pullman as being a cop,
I do.
detective who wants to not really be doing his job.
Yes. The stakes here are different with a lot of his scenes. He's
in
not
a different
like
movie.
accidentally. Right. And I think this movie Nora has a handle on, which is here's a cop who doesn't want to be a cop at all. He finds the job to be a real bummer. He faked a back injury and his superior caught him chopping wood in his backyard. So now he's forcing him to go back onto patrol. But he doesn't want to do that. So he's looking to end cases as quickly as possible. And he is the guy who keeps on being at the right place at the right time to collect the information, to bust the case wide open, and he refuses to acknowledge it because he doesn't want to have to do the extra work. He refuses to do the extra research, to check the file, and it's Daryl Mitchell is his partner who like is trying to actually do things correctly, and everything flies over Bill Pullman's head. I think Pullman plays this beautifully.
It is
I think
funny.
He's very
so funny.
Much like Kudrow, he is dialed pretty into what he's doing.
And like just the scene, this final scene where like he shows up in the hospital room where Travolta's waking up after an accident.
Well, we'll talk
and you
about the
think it's-
accident.
Okay, so I'll get there when I get there. But the Pullman stuff, I just think all of that totally.
But basically, like from minute 30 when Michael Moore is killed, roughly 40 minutes into like minute 80, it's just like Ed O'Neill, Rappaport, and Tim Roth all trying to like get the money, and it's like boring and it makes no sense. And every time there's like
Travolta,
a joke, it's not funny.
Travolta gets into a position where he now owes far more money than he originally
did. They do a scene where he's like, Ed O'Neill wants half. And then
he wants half, he wants 20,000, he wants 10%. Like, I'm now in further debt. So his strategy is, I need to just get level again. I'm going to sell the ticket to someone else to unburden myself of all of this drama.
And he sells it to Ed O'Neill for like $100,000 or something.
He's selling him a $6 million ticket for $100,000 and also trying to unload all of his snowmobiles so he has enough cash to just get out, move, start
from
over.
his assistant, Jerry, who has like a cousin in Colorado who wants to buy all the snowmobiles.
Who always speaks in these very meaningful kind of like poetic statements that
Michael
end up
Weston.
being from a play that he wrote about Evel Knievel when he was in middle school.
Again, just gibberish. Everything you're saying, just gibberish.
David, do you like this
But no,
movie?
yeah.
Do you like do you like the plot of Lucky
Not
Number?
a fan.
It's a gentleman's 10.
I did like Jerry's bedroom where he has bobbleheads, a Kiss poster, and jars
I
of
believe
trolls.
you're talking about Larry,
Larry,
not
I wrote
Jerry.
down Jerry.
Jerry is Richard Schiff.
Okay.
Larry is Michael
How
Weston.
can I have
David is
gotten it confused?
slamming his
I'm
fist on his
trying
desk.
to say a sentence.
The
That's
screen is
all I'm
cracked
trying to
somehow?
do. Oh my god!
What do you think of his jars of trolls?
I don't remember it.
You
Don't
like the troll
remember
jars?
that. What? Don't remember any of
What
that.
did you think of like? What did you
Richard
think of
worked
like
very
the
hard on those
actual
troll
like
jars.
sort of comedy writing? Like when they're there and Tim Roth is like, you need to see what's right in front of you. And Travolta's like, all this in front of me is this placemat with the presidents that only goes up to Van Buren. It's like, what kind of,
I like
what
that.
kind of jokes are these? I don't understand. And Travolta
It's a
is
10-point
so
joke. That's a 10-point
bad
joke.
at this kind of delivery.
I get that Resnick can write a good weird joke. Like, I mean, the man, he made Cabin Boy. He worked on Letterman. Like, and some of these lines, when you say them in isolation, you're like, yeah, that's clever. Like, I get that. I don't think Nora was a particularly good match for his whatever comedic point of view. Anyway, like, it doesn't seem like she's got whatever. The whole tonal thing is the whole problem with the movie. When he sells the ticket to Ed O'Neill for $100,000, he is doing the thing that I do think you need to do in these kinds of movies. Happens in Uncut Gems, happens in a lot of movies about like people
Ben
who are
suddenly looks like he's
heads.
paying attention again.
Yeah.
Where he gets to zero, like, you know what I mean?
Right.
Like, because that's where he's like, okay, now I don't owe Rappaport any money.
Yes.
I'm not in any immediate danger of being arrested or anything.
I'm level
like that.
again. Yeah.
Exactly. Sure, I never got the fortune I was trying to get, but like at least I am, level. Now, here's the point of the movie where I thought he would then, catapult back under, get arrested, and the movie ends. Mm-hmm. The ending of this movie is very different, very surprising to me. Did not understand it at all, but we can get into that.
So during
Yes,
some
because
like
the X Factor is the Pullman thing.
endless series of nonsense of like a breaking in of Rappaport, like there's just like a 10-minute sequence that is gibberish. That ends with Rappaport being shot.
Right.
At this point, I'm like, you don't even understand who's in whose house or like what is happening with the dynamics of the Kudrow, Ed O'Neill, Pullman.
Right, because
like,
you have the thing, the thugs are so bad that when they disposed of Schiff's body, throwing it over a bridge in the scene that Nora Ephron felt compelled by every fiber of her being to shoot, they put a plastic bag over his head, beat the shit out of him, and then tie one brick to one hand so the body isn't weighed down properly and it rises to
and
the
they
surface.
say it's a funny cut. They say it'll never be found.
It'll never be found. It cuts to them finding it, and then Bill Pullman says, probably a suicide, open and shut.
That's
That's
funny. Yes, that
funny.
is funny.
It's funny,
But it is also funny to say, it'll never ever be found. And then it cuts to the news guys going, and today the body of a local gangster was found in the river. And then Travolta's
And Travolta freaking out. And that's the best visual gag in the movie, too. It's that and the truck spilling over are the two actually inspired visual gags. That one is you're watching it from the perspective of the monitors in the control room at the news station. So you're watching them deliver the news while Travolta is on camera, but not on the air yet. So you see him lose his mind and then try to recover. I think that scene's good.
it's fine.
10 comedy
she's
films.
right. You do need to make that scene good, and they made it good. But unfortunately, it's like 75 minutes into this movie.
Yes, it's very deep into this movie. And it is also the first time you're like, oh, is he a character now? Like, now he's funny? Like,
He has an understanding of his actions.
Yeah, and
Of all the things that Travolta
right.
doesn't do well in this movie, the thing he does the least horribly is playing the freakouts. The like, I'm in over my head.
Yeah,
When he
he's-
totally
'cause
loses
he's-
control.
he's okay at
yes.
that. Right,
He's
right.
okay at that. Everything else is abhorrent.
and then they're like, basically him and his assistant are just going to load up the truck, and he's going to like get
Yes.
out of town forever. And that's supposed to be it. We didn't even mention that his ambition in life seems to be to not host the weather, but to host a game show.
He wants to host a game show, and he has an agent who he keeps on telling people is about to book him a big job, and he hasn't heard from the agent in 9 months. And then when they call him back, they tell him that the agent's been dead for 9 months.
Also, a funny joke. In
A funny joke.
microcosm.
He keeps on saying like, no, he's definitely my agent. He's definitely like full agent. He's about to get me a big job.
But the thing we're talking around is that they load up the truck with snowmobiles set painfully to We Are the Champions. And about which she says, you know, when we were going through at the end and you're running out of money and you're clearing songs, they're always trying to cut ones. And I said, if we lose this, we lose the movie. And I was like,
I don't even get the
that
joke
sucks.
of
That
why.
sucks that she thought that
Right.
highly of this dreadful cue. They're loading up the truck. We Are the Champions. The song stops. It's dead silent. And then there's like a 10-second shot of the truck just driving, and then like a 20-second shot of it just slowly falling over.
They pull out of the dealership, and it's a big wide shot of the snowy street. It's like the Dark Knight framing. And the idea is that the road is so snowy that when they pull out,
We didn't even
from
mention that it's
turn-
finally started snowing.
Right. And that he's a weatherman and it never
Yes,
ever
there's
snows.
He couldn't predict
Right.
it.
There's a joke that he couldn't predict it.
He also
Right.
doesn't have the Class C license to drive the truck, which he says
That's
right
true.
before he
Right.
like pulls out, off.
The kind of thing that finally undoes someone in a movie like this usually.
Sorry, am I correct in assuming he also chose to do weather in this one city because it's the same all the time?
In Harrisburg?
I think
it's
so,
like pretty
yeah.
ordinary weather.
Because when people ask him to explain the weather, he can't do it. He says like, no, it's different when I have the charts. He's just bad.
Yeah, I would imagine, Harrisburg has 4 seasons. I'd imagine they go through the
Yeah.
cycles. But she seems to view him as like someone who's just like, he's just talentless. He's just some idiot whose face
He's
is on
talentless.
TV, and that's his thing.
He's the kind of weatherman that changes his name to Stormy.
Yes. So they pull out of the dealership, and it's a hard turn. And because the road is so icy, there's like a whiplash effect to the back of the trailer where it then spins entirely over the other way and topples over. It's a good shot, and it is crazy that someone gave her the time and money and space to do that in this movie.
It's very funny.
It is funny. It's actually surprising.
It's
when you
perfectly
see it
timed,
happen, you're
perfectly
like,
executed,
oh,
silent.
Wow. Right.
Right. And then Travolta freaks out, steals one of the snowmobiles, and tries to get away from the cops.
Does anybody want to guess what she compares this to?
This shot?
Him on the snowmobile. She compares to a very famous,
North by Northwest?
not far off.
Okay.
She says that she wanted it to feel like Slim Pickens riding the bomb at the end of Doctor Strangelove.
Wow.
That's
Way to call your
I'm
shot.
glad she's shooting so high. She's like,
Yeah.
I wanted this film to echo 3 or 4 of the best films ever made by Hollywood.
So, Nora, what attracted you to the screenplay? Well, I felt like it was about time for me to make canonically one of the 10 best films ever made.
She does always couch it, as I read with the one thing, the Shakespearean thing. She always says, like, which is, of course, absurd to say about something like this, but...
Yes. She was not lacking in
So
self-awareness.
he goes on like some dumb joyride and there's like a bit of business where he grabs a snowmobile and the guy is like, don't take that one. It's bad and it's slow. And he's like, is this how you sell these? And
when Bill Pullman finally catches up to him, he freaks out, takes a crowbar and throws it through his window.
not realizing he's there to help.
No, and then gets knocked out. Wakes up in a hospital, and the nurses are all fawning over him because he's such a big star, and they think he's cute. And it almost feels like, oh my God, has he reset? Has somehow the guy gotten a second chance? Then Bill Pullman comes in. He's like, oh no, you're in big trouble, mister. You think it's that scene that exists in this movie where the guy finally puts it together and catches
where
him
crime pays,
because of
essentially.
one
Yes.
small mistake he made. One tiny slip up undid the whole thing. But the twist is that Pullman cares so little, he's looking for only $300 compensation for the broken windshield. And also he needs to pay a parking ticket, a traffic ticket.
He gives him a ticket, yes, for operating a snowmobile.
But this is a great joke.
Like, yeah.
This is a great joke where he gives him the ticket
Yes.
and he looks at it and he goes, it's blank. And Pullman goes, yeah, my pen ran out of ink.
And also the ticket is in 2 pieces and he goes, you can just fix that with Scotch tape. It's still good.
All that stuff is funny.
That's funny. That's funny. And then, yes, the movie is that like everyone gets exactly what they wanted. Travolta becomes a successful game show
Of a
host.
show called Lucky Numbers.
I would dispute that. Crystal does not get what she wanted.
No.
She's the only one. I'm sorry. Yes.
Yeah, no. That's the one of the weird things about the end of this movie where it's like, anyway, Travolta becomes a game show host with a car.
Well, he wraps it all up via a bit of
great.
voiceover. The voiceover
Right.
from
Yeah.
the beginning comes back. We didn't mention
Roth.
this. They get Maria Bamford to cash the ticket.
She becomes
Yeah.
the patsy. Yes.
She gives a speech that, according to the commentary, is entirely improvised, where she's just like riffing on insane nonsense about how she picked these numbers. that she
She's
didn't
doing the numbers.
Good stuff.
I will say
Right.
my
Good
favorite
work.
line is when she says, well, when I was 16, I went to a party, and then moves on.
Yeah, that's funny. And she
She's
made
very
it
funny.
up.
I picked 70 because 70 cents is how much the bacon cheese costs on a bacon cheeseburger.
Right.
I like that line. Oh, that's good. You're right.
and then they wrap it
Lisa
up.
Kudrow's the only one who's punished. She gets
Well, she's a
stuck
woman, so.
working as a lotto-themed stripper. Yes, it does very much feel like that.
Like what?
Like she's punished for being sexually promiscuous.
Right.
Well, that and also like John Travolta and her, I think, are like equally like shitty scam.
Everyone in this movie is shitty.
artists,
Yeah.
Although we
dumbasses.
must say,
It doesn't make any
she's
sense.
doomed to work as a stripper dressed in a bikini covered in lotto balls, which I feel like was
Yes.
heavily
Yes.
used in the marketing. Which I was
think so.
shocked to see as like a one-shot joke in the epilogue, because I feel like that was like the image you saw.
And then to add on top of it, they label her as a Monday, Tuesday, like stripper.
She's not even
It's
getting like
just
prime time, weekend.
It's
Yeah.
like, it's so shitty.
And then in that,
But Tim Roth becomes like a multimillionaire.
Well, Tim Roth-
he has
yeah,
like
he
he
gets
hits it
what he
big.
wants.
Tim Roth,
Yeah.
because all the epilogues, each character gets a little freeze frame send off. Tim Roth winks at the camera in his.
Yes.
I love the name Gig.
I do too.
That's a good one.
Can I say what I also like about Tim Roth's performance? That he chooses to play this guy with zero menace whatsoever.
Super charming.
Like, right, like, but also just like there's nothing. He just everything he says is very
Yeah.
casual.
But he has that inherent Tim Roth menace, right? He knows
Yeah.
he doesn't need to
No,
lean
but I
on
think
it at
that's
all.
that's
right.
a canny choice on his. He's a
Griffin-
smart actor.
This
Yeah.
is the thing. I have no objection to most of the performance in this film.
Great, so we agree it's a great
JT.
film.
And I don't even have an objection to a lot of the writing, but on the screen, you're like, as you're watching it, it's falling out of your head. I can't retain any of it.
And this type of messy movie is my ultimate guilty pleasure.
Adam Resnick seems
Yeah.
to say something to that effect in this pretty good article on Vulture, which I recommend, where he says, a classic case of a script stirring up a certain amount of excitement, everyone getting swept up in it because talent likes it, directors like it, and the package, as they say, comes together. But no one stops to think if it's the right package. No one producer is going to turn down a green light. If blah, blah, blah. He just, lists all the reasons it doesn't go wrong.
Well,
This is not a Nora Ephron-esque script, so right away it was a gamble. And he just basically says, this could have been a thing, and then just everything went wrong, even though this was big stars and a great comedy actress and a great director that everyone knew made hits. No one stopped to think like every element here tastes terrible together.
I feel like half of the bounces we cover on the show, that is a very eloquent summation of what went wrong. Like sometimes a bounce is a director hubristically shoots for the stars and they just get everything wrong. And sometimes it's just like every element should not be put next to the others.
Yeah, it's like
yes.
two fine tastes that go awful together. Like toothpaste and orange juice.
Then there is the insane audacity of ending this movie with and then John Travolta was fine.
He becomes a game show host. He gets everything he ever wanted.
Right. Which is, I think, why people exited this movie and said F. Because they were
want him to be punished.
100%. I want him to be punished. What the fuck does he deserve anything in this? He sucks.
Well, a lot of the looking at the contemporary reviews, people seem to find a lot of problem with what they felt was a deep sense of condescension about the characters, and that like clearly the filmmakers think these people are morons, which is probably a criticism of all of these kinds of comedies.
Absolutely.
But on the Charlie Rose interview, she does refer to them as entirely unworthy human beings, which is a phrase I love. So if you're ever like, I wonder, like, it's kind of hard to tell the director's intention, because in order to make a movie for 2 years, you do need to care about the characters. And sometimes you just think they're entirely unworthy human beings.
Yeah, which makes you wonder, why would you spend 2 years of your life?
She seems to hold this kind of like glib, want to be famous, not talented person in especially low esteem.
But I feel like a lot of her comedy writing, prose writing and nonfiction writing before she moved to film was obviously almost all of it was from her perspective. I mean, there's sort of like personal essays and stories and this and that, but it was a lot of sort of critiquing the behavior of other people around her and other trends and things like that. And she wants to try to do that stuff in movies, but when you're living with someone, visually existing on camera for over 90 minutes, in which an actor has to imbue all of that like annoying behavior with some sense of a larger life behind it, it becomes like very unpleasant for people to watch. And that's pretty much the through line for all of her movies that weren't successful.
Yeah. And it's interesting, like, this goes into Bewitched, which is a fiasco, to use a word David said before we were recording. And
Absolutely.
it's amazing. And like, this was the period where I got really into her because of like just moving in with Anna and like reading her books. And then, but she was like at a real fallow period after these two movies and like culturally, I think. And it was like weird how into her we were. Because it was like, yeah, I guess, like the early movies, sure. But like lately, and then those books, I think really made her great again. Like, I Feel Bad About My Neck and I Remember Nothing, I think really turned things around. And then I think it's good that her last movie kind of like, it's the justifiable film.
She went out on a hit.
Yeah.
Like she went out on like, even if you don't think it's her best film, she went out doing the thing that she was good at as a filmmaker. It was a success. People got Oscar nominations. It was well liked. It was clearly a film with like subject matter that she was personally engaged with.
All of which could be said about this as well.
I just think it is fascinating that like, you're right. It feels like Lucky Numbers and Bewitched should be like, she cannot recover from this, especially considering that she tragically dies too soon, right?
She died way too soon, right? She should have made more
But the fact that like in the last 5 years of her life, she kind of completely restored her reputation. Like hit books, a well-liked play, a big hit movie.
The play was posthumous, wasn't it?
Yeah, but like she got it together. She wrote it, obviously. You know that like her final 5 or 6 years of living, everything she wrote was ended on a high note. And her son said in that documentary, like she was very aware of the fact that she was sick and she wasn't going to live that much longer. And she wanted to get out as much as she could. And the fact that so much of that final like burst of work did represent her at her best or near her best is a pretty insane phenomenon, but it's a nice
It's
one.
good. It's a good ending. These two movies are weird. I should also mention I've sent to you guys like a 15-minute as a gift, a blank check gift, phone call with Jason Schwartzman talking about Bewitched for you to do with what you will.
We will find a way to release that either within the body of Bewitched or as a Patreon bonus.
I called him and asked him, stories about her getting cast in the movie. Just any little anecdote for 15 minutes.
Does he know?
Does he know what?
That we're
That it would
using
be-
it?
Oh yeah, no, I told him. I mean, I've told him about the show before, and I was because he was like, "Do you want me to just tell you and you can relay it?" And I said, "No, I'm going to record it and send it." And he said, "Okay."
Well, also ask Jason Schwartzman if he wants to talk about Robert Zemeckis' A Christmas Carol.
Having a hard time finding a guest for that one.
Not a lot of nips, not a lot of bites.
Maybe he wants to swing in for that one.
He could compare it unfavorably to Klaus. Anyway, I asked him for some firsthand Nora anecdotes on behalf of you, and he provided them. So hopefully that's available somehow. Look, we've had a great time talking about this. I'm excited to figure out just how poorly it did at the box office, and it's been great hanging out with you guys. But look, I'm feeling great. I love doing this. You guys are.
When you show up, you're here trying to break the record.
You guys are a lot of, and I will say on behalf of others, I feel like this hasn't come up in some of the recent episodes, but like, you guys really did a great job of keeping everything on schedule during the worst of the world falling apart. And as I told Ben when he gave me this microphone, we kept everything sounding very professional.
I appreciate that. It takes a lot of work. I know people in this weird time, everything feels very heightened. And so if an episode drops 4 hours late or something ends up being a little different than we expected, that people freak out. And I'm not asking for empathy, but people should know it takes a tremendous amount of work to keep the schedule in place and to keep the episodes like coming out in any form.
Yeah, but we're gonna be good moving forward. It won't happen.
No, I'm
anymore.
just saying. No,
I know,
like,
but I'm just saying
people
that
need to
now.
understand that there will be small concessions just to the nature of our horrible reality.
We're back
right
on
now.
track.
But that
back
run,
on
like
track.
during the first couple of weeks of COVID, when it was like March Madness episodes and like Demi
Start of
bonus,
George.
there was just like, and like the Justin Timberlake Demi, like I feel like you were putting out an episode like every 72 hours for like 3 weeks. And it was really, really fun.
We did more March Madness updates than usual because we needed to use Peek Behind the Curtain.
We
need to
when we were
use
getting
March
ready
Madness to
Zoom,
figure
right.
out the technical aspects of how we record the show remotely.
Well, as a fan, it was appreciated. And I will also say on the subject, before we do box office, I really have to publicly eat my words on Demi because that was a great run. And
Hey,
I know that on even some of the episodes, people mentioned like that I was dubious. But what I ended up doing was watching like 11 or 12 movies I'd never seen and
liked
and really liked most of them.
Hells yeah.
And the episodes were uniformly enjoyable, including when he won. And I remember saying to you guys, do people know they just voted for a Master Builder episode? Turns out it was your best episode ever. So
it might have been our number
Come
one.
in.
Eggs on my face. But boy, I'm better off for having watched all those movies and kind of employed my Demi knowledge now to have gotten like a recent music-y job that I wouldn't have really known how to pitch on if it not for thinking about him as long as you did that series. So I was fully in the wrong.
Someone, I'm not going to call them out by name because they don't need to be shamed anymore, but someone who is not a professional film critic but is public tweeted like, did you see this?
Oh,
They tweeted like, oh, is there any other example? No, because this is what I'm going to say. I'm not going to say what you think I'm going to say, David. David, give me a modicum of trust.
Yeah.
Trust Griffin like he's Russ Richards reading the weather.
I just don't want to amplify that stupid tweet.
Well, now I'm curious
not
what it
the-
is.
We can always cut it.
No, because
All right,
maybe trust that I know what I'm going to say.
All right, okay.
Someone said something like, is there any other example of someone like Jonathan Demme who makes one great film and then makes forgettable bullshit for the next 40 years? And he was getting clowned on in the way people get clowned on film Twitter. But when I saw the tweet and I looked at the replies, there was a very, very large percentage of them that were blankies, not jumping down this guy's throat, but saying like, you know, I used to have a similar opinion on him, but then I watched all of his movies because of Blank Check. And first of all, he made so many good, interesting movies before Silence of the Lambs. And second of all, he only had 20 years after Silence of the Lambs. And third of all, there were a lot of undersung gems in that following 20 years. I liked that the most diplomatic of the responses to that tweet were Blank Check people sort of saying what Alex is saying now, which is like, I actually think if you take the time to dig into Demme, there's a lot of interesting stuff.
It was very
there.
enriching for me to watch all of those movies. And I was glad to be forced to do that.
Isn't that a positive thing for me to say, David? And not just clowning on somebody with the bad take.
I didn't think you were going to clown on him. It is nice that they were
David's
like
hair has turned into fire a la Ghost Rider. He
I
is
wanna
so
point out-
hopping mad.
There's a couple things I want to say. One, my hair's very long right now and I can't stand it. It's the worst, most annoying thing about quarantine. To be clear, it is not the worst thing about quarantine.
David's hair looks exactly the same. I noticed no difference. Other than the fact
So
that it's on
fucking
fire,
long.
like James Wood, Hades, and Hercules.
One of my darkest, because obviously it's been so hard for people, especially like the person who cuts my hair. Has cut my hair for years, and I love her, and I love seeing
Humble
her
brag.
and chatting with her every couple months or whatever. And she sent me an email the other day being like, "Hey, like I'm in New York, like but whenever this is over, I'm still here," and I was so happy. I interviewed Spike Lee today, so that also took it out of me. That took a fucking
Double
hour.
humble brag.
Like, I'm sorry. Can we go back? Say the first exciting thing is that your hairdresser in town, and the second exciting thing is that you talked to Spike Lee.
Lee did not leave New York. Shout out. Second thing, interviewed Spike Lee. That was cool.
Great.
So, but that probably used up a little of my Zoom fatigue or whatever. Third thing, let's play the box office game. I don't know. I can't remember.
I'm excited for
Yeah.
this. Let's do it.
That is crazy though that you led with the most exciting
So
thing
huge.
is my hairdresser named a Joaquin Phoenix mockumentary. She said, "I'm still here." Okay, let's play the box office game.
My God.
And that's why you stick around for 2
Look,
hours and 30 minutes.
If we were half an hour in, I guess that one I would have been like, I get it. That when you said that to me, it was like I was watching the words come at my face, and I was just like, I don't know what these are.
Look, David, as opposed to my hairdresser, who I don't have much of a personal relationship to, who instead named for me a tourist Joaquin Phoenix vigilante drama. They said I was never really here.
Right. Okay.
Okay, let's play a box office
That one
game.
I got you. All right. So this film opened at number 7. It didn't open well.
Fireworks?
Oh yeah, fireworks in the
A
daytime.
lot of fireworks
That's New York
recently.
now, baby. Great to shoot fireworks when you can't see them.
It's supposed to piss cops off, right?
All right.
I
Well, it pisses
guess.
me off. I hate
I
fireworks. I
just
hate
assume
loud
it would
noises.
get their attention.
No, I like it. Keep it going.
Sure.
And it turns out that Ben is the only one shooting fireworks.
Stay
but he's moving
blasting.
from borough to borough.
So, David, this opened when? In October?
Yes, late October 27th, 2000. So this opened to
Very spooky.
4.5. Yeah, it was a Halloween release. $4.5 million on 2,500 screens. So not a particularly good opening. It makes $10 million total at the domestic box office. I don't believe it was ever really released internationally. That's how big a flop it is.
Pointedly remember Entertainment Weekly running an article around the release of this film about how October was the worst month, how there had been fewer $100 million grossers in history from October over any other month. And they were saying, like, look at the evidence. A Travolta movie's bombing. Like, look at all the movies that no one's going to see in October. I feel like that's gone now.
Right.
October used to be the worst month, though.
Sure. Right. But now the summer starts in March and ends in October practically or whatever.
Right.
Used to.
Used to. Now the summer's
Sure.
canceled.
Right. Now the summer starts at Thanksgiving or whatever the new system is going to be. But anyway, I just want to point out that we're not going to talk about it, but opening at number 6 above lucky numbers is Jonathan Lipnicki's The Little Vampire.
Oh, we should talk about it actually for a little bit. Can
All
we go
right.
on a little vampire side tangent?
Yeah.
What's the
let's
deal
do
with the
that.
movie? Like, what's it about?
He's a little vampire.
Okay, small
I don't
bitey.
remember a lot more.
If you'd asked me
to
what
it.
year was that movie, I would have said what Jerry Maguire is 95. I would have said that
96.
movie was 96. That movie is 2000.
2000.
He looks like he's the same age.
Yes, exactly.
He does. He's just got slightly spikier hair.
Did they shoot it in 96?
He didn't age at all, and then he aged a lot. Like, he had like a 7-year window where he looked identical, and now he's unrecognizable.
The weirdest thing is it's like from the director of like Last Exit to Brooklyn and Body of Evidence. Like, I don't know how he was called in to make a
That's
kid
insane.
Is that
vampire
Uli
movie.
Lommel?
Uli Edel. I
Edel.
believe his
Got my
name is.
Ulis
Good,
mixed
Paul.
up.
Edel.
Good, Paul.
All right, number 1 at the box office, the big comedy hit of I guess it probably came out late September, early October. Big comedy star and another actor who's doing more comedies, famous actor.
Another
In his-
famous actor who didn't originally do comedies and now is doing more of them.
think I know what it
Now
is.
He's just started to
Is
do
it a De Niro?
comedies.
Is it Meet the
De Niro.
Parents?
It's
Yes.
Meet the Parents.
Just for
Right.
the record, I believe that was what it was.
In its 4th weekend, has dropped only 6% to stay number 1 for the 4th
Huge
weekend
hit.
in a row.
Just held forever,
Humongous
$100
right?
million.
Yes. And then Meet the Fockers does 100 million more than this big hit. It's crazy how successful those movies were.
It's also crazy how many uses I get out of saying you can milk anything.
It's always funny. It's the funniest line ever in any
Yes.
movie.
Ben and Meet the Parents takes. I don't know. Anyone else care about Meet the Parents? I remember liking it at the time.
It feels so cringy.
It's very cringy.
It gives me like, I don't know. A lot of Ben Stiller stuff is too much.
There's one incredible joke in the second one, which I remember nothing about, where he thinks that Ben Stiller has fathered a child with a Hispanic woman.
Yes.
And he said,
yeah.
There's a young Hispanic man who has Ben Stiller's ears.
who looks exactly like Ben
No,
Stiller.
he
in a
does
way.
look exactly like Ben.
And then
Yes.
the only thing I remember about that movie is he says, the boy's name is Jorge Villalobos. Translation, George House of Wolves, which is an amazing joke. But by the way, that is a great example of comedy mores changing between that and Lucky Numbers. That
Yes.
is like
Sure.
new comedy guys,
Yes.
Ben Stiller, Owen Wilson, just like kind of riffing.
That movie is sort of, it's bringing back an older thing. It's like we're doing farce again.
Yes.
We're doing like a social comedy, right? Like it's about like snooty rich people who are weird. And
That
like, Ben Stiller's
destroying
the
Lucky Numbers is
interloper.
exactly like the decline of the black dark comedy
Yes.
and the rise of like comedies with people that you just kind of want to hang out with who are vaguely uncomfortable and funny.
Well, but Meet the Parents had that gross out tinge. Like
Yeah.
it had the, those big moments that you could put in a trailer that was sort of like American Pie. Yeah.
Right. That's the remnant of the Farrelly
Yes.
brothers tale, which is now moving to the more character-based cringe comedy.
Farrelly Brothers, right.
but high stakes. And it's the combination of those slack pack guys become the big leading men. And also now it's, can you put someone in a comedy who usually isn't funny? And that's half the selling point.
Like John Travolta.
Yes.
Number 2.
Except he thought he was funny.
Okay, number 2 is an absolutely unsurprising sequel, but a total flop of a sequel, though it actually is opening the $13 million. It's a horror film.
Blair Witch Book of Shadows?
Book of Shadows, that's right. They opened the book.
Everyone thought that was going to be number 1, and it
That movie's
greatly
wild.
underperformed.
It did. It's not very good, but it is interesting in that it's about a group of people who have seen the Blair Witch Project, think it's real, and try to recreate it, and then some fucked up shit happens to them. It is such a bizarre pitch. Like, you should think it's just like some people try and find like it's set as a sequel to the Blair Witch Project, but they're like, no, it's going to be a meta take on people being freaked out by the Blair Witch
And we're going
Project.
to get the director of the movie about the West Memphis 3 killers.
Right.
To direct
Jeez.
this
We're
movie.
going to hire a documentary filmmaker about real murders.
That's
So
God,
weird.
Okay, I'm sorry, but just to state this very cleanly, that's still a period in time where even though like the entire appeal of Blair Witch was, oh look, they made it for like $40,000. It looks like a home video. It's like a scary haunted object, and it grossed this much money. They still were like, yeah, but you can't make another movie like that. It has to look like a real movie. So instead, they hire a documentary filmmaker to make a movie that isn't a mockumentary, which everyone rejects because they're like, this is the opposite of what we liked about Blair Witch. It's not about the fucking lore. It's about the aesthetics. Weird miscalculation.
Weird movie. Number 3 is an inspirational sports drama from Walt Disney. Walt Disney
In the year
Company.
2000, it's not The Rookie.
No.
Is it Remember the Titans?
Yes, it is.
Okay. Another big
Denzel
hit.
Washington.
Sorry for stealing that,
Yeah.
but
No, it's
we
fine.
were sourcing all
Huge
those
hit.
Disney sports movies on Disney Plus, and that I just know
Yeah.
is there's 3 zeros after that movie.
What's the best?
Oh, we haven't watched most of them yet. We watched Miracle.
I think
Miracle
Miracle's the
Oh,
best.
would be my
Miracle's great.
pitch.
Miracle.
Miracle is my pitch. That's the
Kevin
best.
O'Connor, baby.
Yeah. He's good at them.
I like that guy.
I think that movie low-key haunts.
It's very good. Great Kurt
agree.
Russell movie.
Yeah.
Number 4 at the box office is a comedy I certainly saw in theaters. I believe I saw it twice.
Whoa.
Huge bomb, big comedy director, 2 kind of middling stars of the moment who are maybe like
TV stars?
No, they're movie stars. It's just like they're not quite like, cream of the crop movie stars. Like they're sort of like, sort of second tier.
Saw
It's
it
a
twice.
remake. I did see it twice. I have no idea why. It's not very good.
A remake of a foreign film or an earlier American
Remake of
film?
an earlier comedy, I believe a British movie.
And do you like it still, or did you see it 2 times by coincidence?
I think it was kind of by coincidence. I think at the time I was very into the lead. I mean, I still love the male star, but at the time I was sort of like, he's going to be big. Like, you know, where I'm going to see everything he's in.
Wow.
And I saw it once and was like, this is funny. And I think I saw it a second time and was like, oh, I guess it's just okay.
When is the original movie from, roughly?
From the 60s. And there's a gender flip happening. One of the 2 lead roles has been gender flipped.
Huh. There's a gender
This
flip
is not
of
a movie
60s.
people really remember.
Yeah, but that feels like that. This is what's driving me crazy. It sounds like it's something that should be so squarely in the wheelhouses of both Alex and myself.
Yes.
We should be the only 2 people who remember this.
Major director.
Bedazzled?
Major comedy director. Bedazzled.
Nailed it. I believe I
Harold-
also saw that 2 times in
I
theaters.
saw that
Harold
once.
Ramis.
Yeah.
Brendan Fraser, Elizabeth Hurley. She's the devil. And you know
Yes.
that because she's wearing a little red dress.
Yes. In the original, it's Peter Cook and Dudley Moore, right?
That's right.
I see. So they made the
Right.
devil a woman in a red
Yes.
dress.
Yes.
With the shapely,
Yes.
In a red
shapely
dress.
fembot figure.
You're right. I was
Whoa.
also just all
She's
in
so
at Brendan
tempting.
Fraser at this point.
Yeah, I mean, that's why I saw
Yeah.
it 100% was like,
He was Money in the Bank for me.
Fraser.
Yeah.
And in my, you know, and he plays lots of, because he keeps wishing and he keeps having different lives.
Yes,
So he
right. He
plays
got
all
to
these
wear
different
different wigs.
characters. Right. It's funny. I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe it's not funny. And then
10 comedy
So
points.
these are a lot of comedies. So October is like
Yes.
comedy month.
Yeah, I mean, they've been sort of hanging around as well, I guess. So
You'll laugh so hard it'll scare you. That was
because obviously the big Halloween
October
release
2000.
are Blair Witch 2 and The Little Vampire.
Right.
2 scariest films of the year. And then number 5 is a failed Oscar play. Big stars.
It's
One
not
of
Men
them
of
highly
Honor.
canceled. No.
One of whom
One
has
of
been
them's highly
canceled.
canceled.
Mel Gibson.
That could be Men of
No.
Honor. Okay. Is it a Spacey? Is it Pay It Forward?
It's a Spacey. Yes, let's be frank. It's Pay It Forward.
Let's be frank. If you would please allow me to be frank,
immediately.
it is Pay It Forward, right?
Yes.
Yes.
And much hyped at the time, but
A movie that
big bomb
basically
and
people
critically
already were
reviled.
engraving the Oscars when the release
Yes.
date was announced.
I believe Griffin walked out and said, like, best actor, best
David,
actress. Right?
I didn't wait to walk out. The lights had not even risen in the theater, and I turned to my father and I confidently said, picture, director, actor, actress, supporting actor. I thought it was going to take them all.
Can you imagine watching that movie now?
It's really tough to imagine.
Could be fun as a goof.
I from redeeming something at some point in time ended up with Pay It Forward in my iTunes library. It was some promotion where it was like, buy one Warner Brothers movie and we give you 3 extra ones for free. And this
But one
quarantine,
of them is Pay It Forward.
right?
And
I mean,
you're
it's
like,
like a curse. It's a
I
monkey's paw. Yeah. But
They
this
try to throw it in
quarantine,
the trash and then it ends up back in your living room.
It's the U2
Yes.
album of iTunes movies.
absolutely. But the quarantine has really tested me, where I just keep on looking at that file in my iTunes library and go, like, is this the thing that will finally push me to watch a standard def digital copy of Pay It Forward? It's not even HD.
What else is in the top? What's below Lucky Numbers?
Yeah, just speed around some things.
Okay, so obviously we have The Little Vampire, as I mentioned. Shout out to the littlest of all vampires. We've also
Shea
got The
Lipnips.
Contender, the
Rod Lurie.
Solid movie.
drama. Rod Lurie, certainly his best movie.
Corridors
Jeff
of Power.
Bridges is
We
great.
love it.
We've got The Legend of Drunken Master.
Oh, yeah.
That's sort of an interesting little moment. Where like
Years
Jackie
later,
Chan,
redubbing,
Hong Kong.
re-editing
Yeah, right.
of a classic film, a sequel to a classic film. That one's okay.
Right.
Yeah.
We've got Best in Show, which is sort of chugging
Okay.
along. It's
Yeah.
made like $10 million.
What does it end up at?
It ends up at like 20. So
Yeah.
it was sort of like a little sleeper.
We just rewatched that. It's just a movie that you watch now, and it's crazy that this was like a film released in movie theaters.
Yes. Yes.
It's just like
Yeah, it's so
loose
funny.
sketches, and it's just
Yeah.
like looks like whatever, and it's so funny, and like people paid money to sit and watch it.
I did like a little guest miniseries on my own, rewatching them maybe earlier this year, end of last year. And that one held up a little bit less for me than the others, just because I remember it being the funniest fucking thing I had ever seen at that point in time. But then you get to the last 30 minutes with Fred Willard, and that is truly... There is an argument to be made that is the best comedic performance in the history of cinema.
Right. Once he shows up.
Right. Like
it's
return on investment. I mean, Seth Meyers tweeted something about it, but just like the amount of screen time he has versus how much he gets out of every syllable in that performance is insane.
One of the funniest people ever.
One of the best parts of that performance isn't even something he says. It's when the other guy goes, well, just like when you asked me that last year.
And the way everyone responds to him, the looks he makes, like he was on set for like 3 hours.
I think what happened part of A Mighty Wind is his individual, probably most like electrifying scene. But yes, I think, the best in show run there is Bulletproof.
It's like his flu game. It's Michael Jordan's flu game. It's him just showing up and somehow just like getting bucket.
So you've also got the Ladies Man, one of the better SNL
another Paramount
sketches,
failing comedy,
another Paramount comedy,
crumbling ruins.
And then you've got, this is actually the only last thing I want to say. 2 other F Cinema Score movies, Lost Souls and Dr. T and the Women.
Yeah.
So in 2000, America is like, I don't know what it is, but we're sick of what you're trying to do. Like, enough.
I think the F Cinema Score only starts that year. I was looking at the list.
I believe that's right. Yes, it's either 99 or 2000. It's around there.
And I think we can all agree in closing that, Lucky Numbers gets an A, right, David?
The last, yes, absolutely, A+. The last thing I want to say is that David Gordon Green's George Washington opened on 5 screens this week.
Great movie.
His first movie.
The first F Cinema Score movie is 1999, Eye of the Beholder, and then 2000 is like Dr. T, Lost Souls, Lucky Numbers. Then it's suddenly...
But Eye of the Beholder came out in 2000, right? I think it's like a British movie, and then it's like like January 6th, 2000.
You're right. So 4 movies come out in the United States in 2000 are the first 4 films to get the
Presuming that at that point they were like, here's the Cinema Score thing, and by the way, guys, now this is brand new for the millennium, but you can give movies an F. People were like, oh,
we have almost run for 3 hours. I have to eat something.
David, I have a side tangent I want to go on quickly.
Really quick, can I just talk about Johnny Mnemonic?
My headphones are literally almost out of battery.
And then I have a merchandise spotlight I want to do as well.
Okay.
David, we're joking!
I know you're joking. You better be joking, or else
Ben
you're in
didn't
trouble.
look like he was joking.
I will say, now that we're done,
now
that we're done, it doesn't seem like, Griffin, you needed to delay this 90 minutes to rewatch Cabin Boy, but I'm glad you did.
30 minutes to watch Cabin Boy.
Fair point.
30.
I think you just wanted to watch Cabin Boy, which is fair.
Because I'm in an Adam Resnick thing. I watched all of Get a Life in quarantine as well.
Good show.
And I will say, I wanted to say more about Adam Resnick, but then all of you dunked on me. It was open season on old Griffey.
We gotta save room for my Schwartzman Bewitched tidbit somewhere.
Well, that's happening next episode.
But you can't put it in the. Oh, you can do whatever you want. It's yours.
Yeah, we're not going to put in a Lucky Numbers episode.
No.
I mean, if we could do whatever we want with it.
You can do whatever you want.
Put it in and double it.
Yeah.
Let's re-edit our first episode ever, which was not good, the first Phantom podcast episode, and put it in there.
In the middle, but let's not tell anyone.
Yeah.
Let's just update it.
Right. Just
the numbers on that
it,
episode.
but without any
Zero
pointing
context.
to it. Yeah.
And it'll be the perfect crime. Alex, thank you for being on the show.
Thank you for having me back for number 5.
I'm so happy. We
Numero cinco.
Finally inducted you into the Five Timers
perfect
Club.
film selection in a already very strong miniseries that's just beginning for the listener.
I mean, you demanded it. Was it worth it?
You tell me.
Are you happy?
I'm happy.
No, you tell me. Or I'm saying, was it? I
I had a great time.
All you dreamed of.
David is miserable. His head is on fire like anger from the Pixar film Inside Out.
It was worth it, and just because I had so much fun preparing for it and wanting to make it a real compelling episode, because I know already from listening to 1.5 of these that this miniseries is taking Nora Ephron very seriously, and you're elevating her as a writer, and already in the half of the This Is My Life episode as a director, and this coming towards the end is going to be a real question mark for people, as it was for me.
Who plays Anger in Inside Out?
Lewis Black.
Of course. Hey, there you go.
Yeah, they took the shortest walk possible on that one.
Yeah, really. Well, he was good.
Hey, and thank all of you for listening. And please remember to rate and review, subscribe. Thanks to Ange for co-producing the show. And Brian on our social media. Lane Montgomery for our theme song. Joe Bone, Pat Reynolds for our artwork. Tune in next week for Bewitched with Dana Schwartz and maybe the Reitman. I'm sorry, the Schwartzman drop. Unless we decide to put it somewhere else funky. And on our Patreon,
not gonna do that.
Well, now we have to call Jason Reitman.
We're gonna put a Reitman drop in the Bewitched episode, and we're gonna put the Schwartzman drop somewhere funky, like in a recording of Funky Cole Medina. Go to blankcheck.com/Patreon. Go to patreon.com/blankcheck for Mission Impossible commentaries and blankies.reddit.com for some real nerdies shit. And as always, I don't think I have ever seen David look more defeated by an episode than he does right now.
We're at 3 hours of episode now. 3 hours. 1, 2, 3.
I know. Okay, I think this is the one I want to do. David?
Yes.
Can you say, geez, I've been so busy lately, I barely polish my shoes?
Okay. Sure. Geez, I've been so busy lately, I barely polish my shoes.
Hold on. No, hold on. Sorry. I say the line and then you say that. It's the opposite of what we usually do.
No, I'm not doing that. I don't even remember this line. Just
well, in that case, which line? That's the line. That's the line I'm trying to do. You have to respond to it. Otherwise, there's no context.
I can't wait for all of this to go at the end of the episode.
That's the line I'm trying to do.
I have to look.
You're forgetting how it goes.
I am. I don't remember anything about this movie.
When did you watch it?
It's gone. Like 2 days ago. It's gone.
He asks, apropos of nothing, do you masturbate, Russ? And Russ says, geez, I've been so busy lately, I barely polish my shoes. Would you rather ask me, do you masturbate, Russ?
Yeah, sure.
And you podcast
okay, fine.
your shoes.
There you go. That's what I'll do.
Griffin,
because David refuses.
God.
Okay, so David, whenever you're ready, whenever you feel like you have your best
ready.
Michael Moore down, you in your best Michael Moore say, do you masturbate, Russ?